Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast.
We call it the Freak Flag. Feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. We got a lot to get into on the show today. Of course, we'll start with the NBA Finals. And if you are a Dallas Mavs fan, you're not having that good of a Friday, but that's okay. Sorry, it's only game one. We'll get into it and break it down. We'll also talk about an NCAA decision that was approved yesterday that will affect every major program across the country, a way to generate a lot of straight cash home. We try to close the financial gap with the exit revenue sharing plan that's coming up. They got to create more revenue. You're talking about $20-something million in revenue. They got to create more revenue. Oh, and this is an easy way to do it. Something we talked about was probably going to happen, and actually ended up happening within a week of our conversation. So we'll get into that coming up here in the first segment. It'll affect DKR Stadium and Campbell Williams Field, I believe it is, at DKR Stadium. Not mistaken. So we'll get to that. We'll also talk some NFL on the show. We got some sound that is talking about Dak Prescott's leverage. Adam Schefter talking about Dak Prescott's leverage in his negotiation with the Dallas Cowboys. We're also going to hear some really honestly, it's some bold predictions about the Houston Texans. People really high on the Texans. They are kind of the team this year in the NFL. We'll talk about that too coming up. We get some of the NFL news notes and nuggets. My man Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell signed their deals in the NFL. Congratulations are in order. So we'll talk about now officially that they're a part of the team. We'll talk about their impact and how those teams are going to utilize them, some of the challenges they may face, and how they fit the compatibility of both of those receivers with their teams. We'll get into that. We dive into NFL discussion. Also have a survey that was done. So we'll talk about NIL. There's also a brilliant idea by a company, Open Doors. They track NIL transactions and collectives and directives from major programs across the country, and they are on the cutting edge now of this new framework in college sports, which obviously will include revenue sharing, and we'll have a change to NIL. And at one point, there will be national legislation NIL, and you won't have everything based on state-to-state laws. But there's another idea that's thrown out there. Actually, I think it's past the idea phase. I believe that they are implementing it with programs across the country, and it's a great idea for the new era that we're about to embark on college sports. So we'll talk about that too coming up in the show. So we're jam-packed on the Friday. We got a lot to get into, but before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew, because he's the most valuable member of the team, also one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. I'm not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. He's got many hats he wears around here, and he's a man that goes by many names. We call him the Idealionaire, but he's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. Is Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It was not a great night for watching the sports last night.
Oh, man.
I mean, you add in that Texas softball not being able to get it done, and Oklahoma being able to celebrate. All of that, it was not a great night. But it's a Friday. Turn it around and be positive going into the weekend. And there's some good things. The Texas softball season was still a really good season. We are now closer to the SEC.
Great season. Yeah,
we're getting closer to the SEC. I believe track and field is still happening. I believe.
So you still got a sport going.
Okay, I think that is still going. So it's not. We're not completely done for Longhorns. I believe there still is track and field.
Very close.
We're very close. Getting close to that party on June 30th.
That's right there. Yeah, that's right. There's the SEC party. It's actually literally an SEC party on the field. Yeah, everybody out there. That's going to be interesting. I mean, we'll see if I end up making it out there to the SEC party. I wonder how many people are going to show up for it. And it's going to be a bit. They say it's going to be a music act there that is world, like internationally known
superstar.
Internationally known. I'm like, okay, all right, be careful there. What do you
internationally known and global superstar? I'm like, I think in Pitbull. Doesn't it just like those are all the things Pitbull calls himself?
He does call himself a lot of different things. Yes, I'm not a Pitbull fan, but I do understand he is internationally known. That is a fact. As he will tell you. Yeah,
as he will tell you, he's Mr. Worldwide.
Yes, there it is. That's the term.
Let me introduce you to my co-host. He is a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He's the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro as always. Of course, we'll have your usual favorites on the show. We'll have the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll also get into some what the facts, what the stats, off the record, who said that. We got all of that coming for you a little bit later on. But yeah, a lot of random topics that I'm really excited about getting to. One that I'm not excited about talking about is the old biblical, Old Testament style butt whipping that the Celtics put on the Mavs. But we'll get into that. We also have the Horn headlines, which we'll get to here momentarily. My man Patrick's going to keep you, get you updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day. So we'll have that as well. And coming up a little bit later on in the show, there's also, when we go behind the Burn curse, matter of fact, we'll do it next segment. I want to talk about these Pro Football Focus rankings of the offensive line. I was doing some research about opponents for the Longhorns coming up. And the offensive line is going to have a challenge next year. At least the interior of the offensive line is going to have a really big challenge, especially going into the SEC. But they are supposedly expected to be up to that challenge because they are ranked really high as one of the best offensive lines in the country. So we'll do that when we get to our Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain segment coming up next segment. But before we do that, we'll talk some NBA. We'll get to the Horn headlines here. So let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day. We're going to Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
Your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rails and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball finished an amazing season, coming up just short against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series Finals yesterday, 8-4. Texas will now look forward to adding to an already strong roster that entered the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed while celebrating all of their success from the season. In the NBA, the Celtics took game 1 of the finals in a commanding fashion, going on a big run to end the first quarter up 37-20 before ending the half up 63-42. The Mavs fought back in the third, cutting the lead to 8 before a 14-0 Celtics run that proved too much for Dallas. The Mavs will try to regroup and solve the problems in their offense before Game 2 on Sunday. In Major League Baseball, the Astros began their series with the Angels tonight, sending Framber Valdez to the mound in a game where they hope to have Tucker and Bregman return to the lineup. And the Rangers take on the Giants with Michael Lorenzen getting the start while they wait to see how Corey Seager's hamstring is feeling before they decide the severity of the injury. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. It was not pretty. It was for 3 quarters, it was a dominant performance by the Celtics. I guess it was tight or competitive in the first quarter, but even in the first quarter, the Boston Celtics started to pull away, especially after they put Porzingis in. It was about 7 minutes left in the first quarter. This is actually when the Mavs had a 1-point lead. They put in Kristaps Porzingis, and they go on a 17-5 run in like that, in like a 5-minute stretch with him in there. He takes over the game. We talked about X factors yesterday. So how apropos for your question yesterday, X factors, and Kristaps Porzingis was considered one of those X factors, and he certainly showed up, and he had in that stretch, in the first quarter when they put him in 11 points, he went 4-5. He had 3 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. And really that's when the Celtics started to pull away. There was a point in the third quarter where the Mavs brought it back within 8 after the Celtics had a 29-point lead, I believe it was, the largest it was in the first half. But there was no point, Patrick, where it looked like the Mavs were on the same level as the Celtics. Maybe for that first part, the first half of the first quarter.
No, the second half, when they came out in the third quarter, they cut the lead to 8. So they're down by double digits. They're down by over 20. They're down by 21 and a half. They cut it down to 8. You go, okay, this is a Mavs team. All you got to do is keep it in single digits going into the fourth quarter, and then you have a whole quarter to try and finish it out and get it to clutch time. Is what we talked about. Get it to clutch time. But you cut it down. So you made this run. Now all you can do is keep it at double digits going in the half. Then Boston immediately goes on a 14-0 run. And really, it was just like there was a couple things in there where the Mavs got 2 travels called on them in a row. And they were travels. I'm not saying they weren't travels. I just don't know the last time I saw a team get travels called on them 2 times in a row in the NBA. I don't know if it's happened in the last 30 years.
They're not very strict on it. They're not very strict on that stuff. I agree with that.
Or they both pivot foots moved. That's fine. The Derek Lively when he was fouled, but that's neither here nor there. That's not the reason they lost the game. But you saw in that where they had all this momentum, and it was, the best thing you saw was that third quarter for the Mavs, because it was that they came out of the locker room and weren't walking back out with their tail between their legs. They didn't come back out and just admit defeat after the half, which is really what you wanted to see, because you didn't want to see a team say, oh, we'll come back and get them in game 2, because if you have that mentality, then you'll say, oh, well, we can go back to Dallas. We're down 0-2. Then we'll get a win in Dallas. And it's just a losing mentality. They came and continued to play throughout the game until it got down to the end in the last 7-8 minutes, and they said, we're down. It's over now. But coming back and fighting that second half, getting a pushback, that's what you want to see. You saw they played better defense in the second half. They had a couple more things figured out. But in reality, they just never really figured out their offense. The defense got better in the second half. They were able to figure out a couple more things, slow down Boston from scoring a lot. But you talked about it yesterday. One of the big pieces, those corner threes, they just didn't get any.
Mm-mm.
And,
No.
And how bad it is when, how many times the Mavs drove in to 3 guys defending a guy attacking the rim, and he goes with it still and gets a shot block. And you're like, just kick the ball back out. If there's 3 guys on you, that means 2 guys are open.
So they had 9 assists on 35 field goals.
That's what I'm saying. They had 9 assists.
Luka had a season low, 1 assist.
Yeah.
He tied the season low, but still, the point. And so, to your point, they never figured out the offense. There was no real ball movement.
No, and Kyrie Irving had an awful game where I felt, because we talked about it yesterday, I think he needed to continue to be aggressive, but his aggression didn't ever turn out well. He took a lot of bad shots that weren't, where instead of trying to get to the rim, and there's some he missed around the rim, which I don't mind as much because he is such a good finisher. Those ones don't bother me as much. But what bothers me is taking those shots, taking the threes that were off balance threes that, just dribbling down the court and jacking up a 3. Those for the Mavs, those are killers. When you're getting beat and getting run out of a gym and you just come down and give the ball right back, and you're thinking in your head, well, I'm going to hit a 3 and I'll kill their drive. But that's like a 20% shot.
Mm-hmm.
So 1 out of 5 times that's going to go in, and 4 out of 5 times you're giving them the ball back within 10 seconds of them scoring. And you just cannot do that over and over again. And they kept doing it. There was a lot of issues. I'll tell you another thing I saw in that game that it concerns me, because the Celtics knew about it, which is I don't think Maxi Kleber can shoot a jump shot. I think his shoulder's hurt. And I don't mean like he can't shoot. I mean you mean
he can't physically. He's not capable of it.
That shoulder in a series before, 2 series before, it missed a lot of time, and they just left him wide open. Like, they did not guard him. They went 4-on-5 when he got the ball at the 3-point line, and he passed.
Did they see it on film, or did they just know?
They had to have known. They had to have known
somewhere that
they either have a source or they saw it in the previous series that he was passing the ball and not shooting.
Yeah.
He had 2 points on a layup. He went in, drove, and had a nice layup against Porzingis, who was blocking everything.
Man, he was, like I said, he was rim protection. It was early and often. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's parts with Porzingis in that first half where it is when you're feeling good and you haven't been playing, it's a lot easier to be really focused and intent in what you're doing. But that's when you watch Porzingis play like that, and you're like, well, if you care this much all the time, people you'd be a better player.
I think in the post game he said, this proves I'm a pretty good player and I can contribute. You can tell like he was kind of feeling himself. I'm a pretty good player. It's like, we know that.
The whole point of being a great player is consistency. And that's what he's lacking. And I mean, in the second half,
that's why he's pretty good. Not great.
Right?
There you go.
When you see stuff like the Maxi Kleber not being able to shoot, and you go, okay, you have to be able to find out what you're going to do. You played Josh Green a lot more minutes. Was one of the things Jason Kidd was throwing out there to try and deal with a smaller lineup of the Celtics. The problem was they would just get the ball to Porzingis and they'd run switches and get on matchups they wanted to have. And it would be Porzingis on Josh Green. He's giving up way too much height. And whatever he would try and do, Porzingis would just getting 10-footers, 12-footers, just killing him with them over and over again. So you have to go back to the drawing board on some of those pieces. But the reality is you held him to 107. With 2 runs in the game, you held him to 107. That's not terrible for what we know the Celtics team can do. Again, I think the Celtics, if I'm thinking of blowout, I think they're going to put up 120. So we know in today's NBA with what the Celtics can do. They can put up 120. They put up 107. The Mavs only scored 89 though. And in today's NBA, and I know it's a little bit different now, if you don't score triple digits, you're going to lose most of your games.
That's because they were so terrible from 3-point range too.
They were 7 of 27.
That's a big part of it. They got to be better there.
That's part of passing. That's part of the assist going down. Is you're hitting guys for threes and they're not hitting them. But you have to find better ways to get that offensive flow, other than Luka Doncic just having to get hot at points in the game. You have to be able to get offensive flow, and Kyrie Irving has to settle down into a realm of being aggressive. But that doesn't mean three-pointers aggressive. That means making the defense collapse and then using your passing game to get around. Because what the Mavs did, or what the Celtics did more to defend inside, when you were wondering about how they were going to defend against against Lively and Gafford and them inside, what they did basically is they just all collapsed every time. Everybody collapses. And they say, make a three on us. And if you hit the threes, then we'll deal with that when we get there. But we don't think you're going to be a good enough 3-point shooting team to beat us. We'll take away the corners. We know your guys don't shoot as well once you get past the break. So we won't collapse from the corners. We'll collapse everything up top, leave you from the break open. We'll leave you open for three, and we don't think you're going to hit them. And they didn't.
They didn't. They did not. No, it's their strategy was pretty simple. Even with Luka, they probably just played Luka straight up and then contested shots with everybody else. Basically, forced the supporting cast, everybody in the supporting cast, to make contested shots and make Kyrie's life hell. We talked that yesterday. And we got a better chance of stopping Kyrie and frustrating him because the crowd will help us there too. The crowd will help us that. And even Kyrie himself a little bit, he'll help us that because he may get frustrated. And they did. They had a better chance of stopping Kyrie. They focused on the supporting cast. Luka will get his, but Luka will have to play hero ball. Let's turn Luka into hero ball, Luka. That way, as you always point out, that makes him inefficient, Luka. And he wasn't that inefficient, but still inefficient from the point that he didn't get others involved. It was just him. He didn't get to get others involved. Only one assist, as you point out, that also affects your ability to generate open shots behind the arc. So they're shooting contested 3-point shots, and if they are at the spots they like, and like you said, if they are open, it's in a spot they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a simple strategy, but the Mavs never made him pay for it. The supporting cast never made him pay for it. We talked about the X factors yesterday. The X factor, I believe, who won the poll was Derek Lively. He was a subpar. He looked like a rookie for one of the first times out there. He had 5 fouls, 5 rebounds, and 2 points.
Yeah.
That their X factor was Kristaps Porzingis, and he had one of the best games of anybody out there in that 7-minute stretch and start the game.
Yeah, and Lively had a decent game when he was in, but he was a rookie, and Jaylen Brown and the Celtics knew that, and they just drove into his chest, knowing that they would get the calls. And so there was a couple of fouls that he got where, he's going straight up and down, he's trying to make the call, but if you're going up against a superstar in the finals and you're a rookie, you're probably not going to get that call. And so it's just learning how you have to cause pressure and try and defend shots around the rim without just going straight up and down, understanding you're not going to get that call.
Yeah.
So they're just going to keep running into you and trying to bulldoze through you, and it's going to beat you up and foul you out. And as much as that sucks, that's what they're going to do. They're going to continue to do it to put you in foul trouble because you are an X factor. Because when you were in the game, you were still playing good basketball. He still had a plus minus of his actually plus minus was pretty bad. It was negative 15.
I think it might be his worst plus minus of the postseason.
But he was still playing decent basketball. He was also bringing energy, which was a big piece early in that game. The Mavs did not rebound. The offensive rebounds early for the Celtics were devastating. I was surprised to realize they tied in offensive rebounds in that game. That it didn't feel like that watching it.
Yeah, because I think the Celtics were more impactful because they were early in the game when it was still supposed to be competitive. The Mavs had theirs late when it didn't matter.
But it was the energy early. There was at least 3 offensive rebounds for the Celtics that hit the floor. And those are hustle plays. Rebounds are not supposed to hit the floor.
Was it 50-50s?
Yeah. So if you're saying if the ball comes out and hits the floor, that's free ball. Anybody can get it. And that's where Derek White was getting those. And other guys were jumping in and picking those balls up off the ground and not allowing the Mavs to get there. There was just a number of pieces. I don't think the Mavs were ready for the physicality that Boston brought.
And the depth too. They just overwhelmed them. Just the depth. Yeah. That's what they showed in that game to me, that they do have so many. I mean, Jason Tatum scored 16 points.
Yeah.
I mean, 16 points. They even need their superstar. Jaylen Brown was okay, 22, but I mean, they had so many. Derek White had 15 points, and as you point out, you said 107 is actually for the Celtics. That's on the lower end of what the Celtics should score. I will say this: the Mavs lost game 1 against the Clippers in a blowout fashion. I believe got blown out, and then they lost game 1 against the Oklahoma City Thunder, if I'm not mistaken. And they didn't look great in that game either. They bounced back really well. They're a bounce back team.
You just mentioned Jason Tatum went 6 for 16. He scored 16 points. It's not that he took more shots than anybody else on the court. Anybody else on the Celtics. He took the most shots on the Celtics. He just wasn't hitting them. Wow. PJ played good defense. They guarded Jason Tatum well in that game. So there are positives you can take away from it. They didn't play bad. It was just, I don't think they thought Porzingis was going to come out on fire and have that amount of confidence coming back from injury. I don't think they were prepared for that. And nobody was. Nobody thinks a guy takes off a month and is going to walk out and within 20 seconds be the best player on the court. When he shouldn't have been the best player on the court anyway.
On both ends, he was blocking shots too.
I mean, he's not an elite rim protector normally, and he was an elite rim protector in that game.
Yeah.
Derek Jones, for whatever reason, kept going at him. There was a play in that it's a fast break, and Josh Green comes down, and Porzingis is already back, and I'm watching with friends, and we all are like, "Pull it out! Just don't do it." Don't you know what's going to happen? And he immediately goes in and gets blocked. And you're like, dude, have you not seen what just happened? He blocks like 3 shots in a row, and then you drive right at him.
No, you're right.
Stop. It's a 3-on-1, and you're the one. Pull it back out. Take your time. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I will say the experience also like that was something that materialized, that experience factor for the Boston Celtics. And even Jason Tatum talked about that. As you say, we learned our lessons from last time, and we learned our lessons from last year, but also learned it from last time and coming up short in the NBA Finals. So, Mavs they got a Herculean task ahead of them. Boston is a better team. They're a deeper team. Rest versus rust day. There was no rust. It was just well rested. They look well rested. Like a team that has going to have fresher legs than the Mavs too. So a lot of advantages for the Celtics, man. A lot of advantages.
Yeah, and I mean, they came after. They kept switching on to Luka to try and get his legs tired for the end of the game as well. Like they had a really good game plan and they were able to execute it pretty well. And I think for the Mavs, you saw what they did in Game 1 against Minnesota with Kyrie Irving going off early. And it felt like they were trying to recreate that in this series, that they wanted to throw him off by having Kyrie go off early, and he just wasn't able to get it done. And that kind of kills you when you have somebody take more shots than they have points. He took 19 shots, he had 12 points. Yeah. That will destroy your team if you have somebody that cannot score in that level. And we talked about the jinx yesterday of getting free throws at Kyrie shooting there. He didn't shoot one.
That's even worse. That's worse.
You're going out, and if you're not shooting well, and you're not doing that, and I know it's beating a dead horse at this point for how many times I've said it on the airwaves. Get to the free throw line. Go in and get bumped. Go. Jaylen Brown was doing that. He wasn't playing great at points, and he just started driving and just went into the chest of big guys. And, if Luke Cornett's out there or somebody's out there like that or Hauser's guarding you, just go right at him. They're going to give you the call.
Yeah.
So go right at those guys. And so it's like you got to get to – if you're shooting that poorly, you got to get to the free throw line and try and just get something to go and feel a little bit better about yourself. But both teams, by the way, shot awful free throws. Like that was – if you want to talk about nerves on that one, both teams really were bad at free throws. The Mavs were 12 for 19 at 63%, and the Celtics were 13 of 19 for 68%. That's bad for both teams.
That is bad for both teams.
Under 70% both teams in free throws in the finals is not good.
Yeah, but the Celtics, have some advantages. Bad for the Mavs, like you said, they're 89 points. They can do so. Yeah, exactly. So it does. Game one, I think it looked like a lot of the projections where you think the Celtics do, but some folks are thinking that the Celtics are going to win this thing in 5 and clean up the Mavs. Game one may look like that, but game two, that's when the Mavs usually make some really good adjustments. Jason Kidd, he's done a great job this postseason with those adjustments, with the counters. So we'll see what they come back for in game two. It's going to be a lot of. You can't go down 0-2 in this series. Not to this team.
No,
not to this team.
No, and the big deal is you can't get you even if you go down 0-2, you can't get beat like that again.
No.
You have to have Luka has to be on the court when the game closes. Let's put it that way.
Clutch time. Clutch time has to happen.
It has to be close enough that Luka Doncic is on the court as time expires. Whether you win now, if you win by 20, he doesn't have to be clearly, but you have to be able to.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll blow out the Celtics.
No, I don't think they are either. But that's my point. Is you just have to you have to be in the game at the end. If you let them walk away and go on these runs again, then it starts to look like the rest of the series that the Celtics have played in, where they just basically they give up a game, but it was never close.
Yeah, you're right. It was just. You brought it up yesterday. I talk about it with Sark all the time, and we talk about how the Warriors used to do it. This Celtics team, and you said that they have that ability too. They just go on these massive runs, and sometimes they're just to answer a run that you just had, so it nullifies all the momentum you had, and that's what happened in that third quarter. Right? You had the Mavs won like a 35-14 run or something like that.
They basically they cut it down to 8. They were down 21. They cut.
I'm talking about just I'm talking about including the second quarter and all that. They basically outscored them 35-14 in that stretch. Brought it back to 8. Was it 76-64? I believe, something like that. And then boom, that's when they pulled away again. So yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's a Herculean task, man. I picked the Mavs, but man, it was more of a sentimental pick, and I'll admit right now.
I'm rooting for the Mavs. I'm full on rooting for the Mavs in this series, but I just know how good this Celtics team is. It's frustrating. They just have so much talent on the team. It's one of those things where you watch it and just go, yeah, you're stacked, you're loaded. So of course you're gonna be the favorite in most of these most games because there's just and when you see what Porzingis did, like that dude's coming off the bench for him right now. Al Horford scored, quick points for them early on, trying to stretch out, and Daniel Gafford didn't know how to guard on the 3-point line. And that was early on. They tried to figure that one out. And then all of a sudden, Porzingis goes off. It is what it is in game one. You just have to, today is, get some rest, watch a lot of film, plan more of what you're going to do. Tomorrow, get back in the gym, get feeling good about yourself. And then, Sunday, you just got to try and go out there and play a little bit better than you played yesterday.
Yeah, no, like I said, the Celtics, man, they look really impressive, and they do. It look like a mature team now. That experience factor was also something I think that was evident in that matchup. All right, let's get to the break so we can stay on time here. Then we'll get to the decision made by the NCAA to help programs around the country generate a little bit more revenue. Something we talked about, I believe, last week or earlier this week. Actually, might have even brought it up, but it's something that came to fruition already. It's been approved. We'll discuss it. It's going to affect the Longhorn program. Of course, it'll affect the Campbell Williams Field at DKR Stadium, which we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Pro Football Focus ranking the best offensive lines in college football for the 2024 season. The Longhorns are highly ranked, but they will be tested this season. We'll talk about that too. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to talk some Texas football conversation. Congrats, though, to the Texas softball team. I mean, I know they obviously lost to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma's
Heck of a season.
It was a great season, awesome season. So I'm sure the ladies don't want to hear that right now. But when they look back on it and they, look on what they achieved, I think they'll be really proud of themselves. But yeah, losing to your rival in a championship game, I can't imagine. Losing to your rival is tough enough. Losing them in a championship series got to be tough. But the ladies were awesome. And sorry, go ahead.
I would say CB said on the text line, which I'll trust CB on this. So shout out to the track and field. The track and field won 2 national championships last night, and I believe clinched the Directors Cup. That's what CB's saying. So,
nice. I did not realize that.
So that may have clinched it with track and field and the softball performance, beating Stanford and knocking them out and all that. So that could have been good. But yeah. CB saying we've got the clinch there.
CB can be trusted on stuff.
I trust him more than I trust myself.
Can be trusted. Even when I'll look up something CB already sent me. CB's like, why'd you look that up, man? He feels like, did you trust me? Like, I do trust you, CB. I trust when CB sent me something. I trust it. I should just learn to trust. I know he's done the research already. So I'm with you. Just throw it out there. You know what I mean? He's one of those trusted sources. TMZ didn't used to be trusted either. And now ain't nobody fact checking TMZ. But TMZ does it. We roll with it. That's what I'm CB. Okay, so how about so congrats to them. But how about this story? And this is going to affect well, you know what? And I imagine, I don't know if this applies to any other sports because it just says football here. But Brett McMurphy tweeted out yesterday that NCAA has approved corporate advertisements to be placed on college football fields this fall. He said advertisements centered on the 50 and no more than 2 smaller flanking advertisements elsewhere on the field. This can be done on a game-by-game basis or an entire season. Ooh, game-by-game I guess that wouldn't be that.
So, Texas OU. Like Texas OU is an easy game-by-game.
Oh, yeah. I'm just talking about, I imagine that, like I said, if you're Texas, you already probably got this thing sold. I mean, you've probably already been on this. I wonder who the sponsor will be for the Texas field. But you're talking about like bowl games, I guess now they can have
and neutral site fields can definitely
on the field, that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, you're right about that. So it's gonna happen. We talked about this when we talked about jersey advertisement and sponsorships on jerseys. And then we talked about, hey, when are they gonna do it with, obviously the field and with naming rights for different college stadiums and stuff like that. It's coming. This is just the first step. This is the first step, and I guarantee you the jersey sponsorships at one point, I'm not saying it's going to be this year, but that's going to come too. They just need easy sources of revenue. They just need this easy money to close the gap between whatever the revenue sharing is going to be and what the expenses they have now. But they're talking about close to a $20-something million gap. Like, that's a big gap for a lot of programs to try to close in terms of revenue sharing with college football. So this is just for football fields. Like I said, I don't know if it applies to anything else. All right, so there you go. I don't know if what's going to be the sponsorship on Campbell Williams Fields. Who gets it? Is it just is it a well-known like local and regional company, or are we talking about just some national?
It would probably be some national. It could be something national that like has a base here.
Texas they do have the luxury of picking and choosing, though. I mean, they'll have multiple companies interested. They do have the luxury. Now, they could just go with the highest bidder. They don't have to go with the highest bidder. They could go with something that is that does have more of a local feel, or they could go with something that has more of a tie or a connection to Texas in some way, state or culture or school, whatever. They could go that route they wanted to, but they also could just go highest bidder and be like, nah, man, this is about the money. We need to generate the most revenue we can. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I wouldn't doubt that Texas has this thing announced in the next week, because they already, if it passed, Texas knows it's going to pass, and a lot of the schools know. So they've probably been working on these for a while. Or they got companies already jumping at them, champing at the bit.
The funny part is going to be the schools that get the local ones.
Oh, you're gonna have to.
Just seeing those ones that are just awful on fields,
like Iowa State or something like that.
Oh no, but I mean like Rice.
Right. Oh, Rice might be pretty good on H-Town.
No, I know, but it'll be like
if you're in Houston, if you're in a major city like that, I think you might be okay.
Yeah, but it'll be like Trail Burgers out there.
Yeah, Rice is borderline Ivy League too, so they got You know what I mean? They got corporate connections and they got
Yeah.
connections with real money. They're like in Westview in H-Town. Rice is set up. Rice is fine.
No, but what I mean is
yeah.
they'll be able
I
to.
think
What do you say?
No, I think in the smaller towns is where you'll get the funny funny ones. Because they may not get like the national corporate sponsor. It may just be a local dealership. Like, man, I can afford that.
Well,
let's do that. I want to be on the field. Like that kind of stuff.
Well, so I think anyone who's in a major conference can get a decent enough deal because you're going to be on TV. And if you're on TV, that's where you're paying for the logo. You're not paying it for the people in the crowd. You're paying it for it to be on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's
so,
what I'm saying. So yeah, they'll be way more expensive just because they'll be like, no, I'm on TV this many times on this major network. Yeah, exactly.
It's the ones that are small towns or smaller areas, and then also not a Power 5 or a group of 4 now, I guess, or Power 4.
Those are going to be the best ones. Those are going to be the ones. The group of 6 or whatever.
The Mountain West
schools,
towns, Oregon states.
Yeah, those are good. I'll tell you, those are going to easily be the best ones because you're right. That's when a local company can decide. I think I can afford that. What was that? That's all it costs. You know what? For us, that's good advertisers because we're just trying to cater to our local demographic here anyway. We don't care about people seeing us nationally. That doesn't matter to us anyway. Yeah. So you're right. I can't wait.
It's like a car dealership.
Yes, exactly. It'll be like a little weird. The guy with the crazy car commercials. That guy like, I can afford this, man. You know what? I'm gonna do it.
Just some guy's face on the field.
Yeah, just a great. Yeah, as I'm saying, someone will get wacky, and schools will be like, "No, we don't care. We just need the money. Like, we do whatever you want to do. If you're willing to pay this amount, we'll let you."
Crazy Eddies.
On the field. I'll say I definitely know it's gonna happen because those guys sometimes they're major boosters and major donors. Trust me, the car business, it's big business. All right, there you go. So you got logos coming on college football fields. That's gonna be fun. Let's get to what I don't know for the offensive line discussion if we have time. Let's get to this wide receiver discussion. I saw a ranking of the wide receivers, and this came from On3. The ranking of the top wide receivers in the country who are uncommitted in the 2025 class. And they also had their lean, basically the prediction of where they're going to go. DeCorian Moore is considered the number 1 wide receiver in the country. They got him as a Texas lean, 89%. Then they got Khalil Lockett on here as well as a 5-star, and he is 78% lean to Texas, what it says here, but also there's some Aggie in there, but it says 5% Aggie. This is based on their prognostications. Then there's Jamie French, who they also have 49% Texas lean in between Texas and Ohio State. So it's interesting that yesterday I had the rant that I believe we're embarking on a new era of football where the wide receiver position is the second most important position in football. Just go look at the dollar figures in the NFL now. All right. Go look at how many non-quarterbacks are making at least $30 million a year. You got 4 wide receivers and you got 1 D lineman and 1 defensive end. And it's Chris Jones and Nick Bosa, but then you got 4 wide receivers already. And by the way, it's going to be 6 pretty soon because CeeDee Lamb's going to join that club, and so will Jamar Chase. It's about to get crazy. Who knows? Brandon Ayuk may even be knocking on the door there. So the NFL has spoken. Money talks. That's the second most valuable position in football right now. The draft also is a part of that. Look how many they're drafting in the NFL and in the higher rounds of the NFL draft. And it's crazy. I wonder if it's just Sark's program. Sark talks a lot about mimicking the NFL.
Yeah,
he was literally in SEC, the spring meetings, and they were talking about roster sizes, and they were talking about roster limits, and how you incentivize coaches to be truthful and honest, and on the injury reports and all this stuff. And he said, no, we should just copy the NFL. The NFL has solved a lot of these problems already. We just copy the NFL model because of his time in the NFL. And he talks about that, and he talks about he's already hired a general manager. It's one of the few programs in the country that's hired a general manager. He's like, no, we're building this thing like an NFL program. He's talked about how the transfer portal is kind of free agency for them. They look at it in that aspect, and traditional recruiting is kind of how they build through the draft. And I wouldn't doubt if Sark in his studies, and we know he studies the NFL too, because he studies a lot of his offensive inspirations, the guys who expand his creativity, the guys who inspire him to add to his offensive philosophy and ideology in the NFL. So he studies league trends. He studies what's going on in the league. And it's pretty obvious, like we said, that the wide receiver position is becoming more and more important. And we know that Sark, he really covets speed and he likes to stockpile a high level of talent at the wide receiver position. Even look what he did this year via the transfer portal. We're talking about how deep Texas is at wide receiver. And now they have Texas, at least a lot of these recruiting services have Texas trending to get 3 5-star receivers in the same class. It may just be coincidence, but as a football theorist, I don't think that way. I connect the dots. And it just seems like Sark is, in a lot of ways, he mimics the NFL. And I think his program also is mimicking the importance of the wide receiver position behind what's also the important position at Texas, quarterback. He's stockpiling QBs, NFL caliber quarterbacks, Quentin Ewers, Arch Manning. I think Trey Owens is an NFL quarterback, in my opinion. And then it seems like he also, and I know they stockpile the offensive line and prioritize it too. So you can debate this, but I'm just talking about now. It does seem that the NFL and even Texas right now, both, at least in this talent acquisition cycle, are prioritizing wide receiver as much as they ever have. If you get 3 5-star receivers in the same class, I mean, that is great. Last time Texas did that was when I was on the 40 acres in 2000, when you get B.J. Johnson, Sloan Thomas, and Roy Williams. So it is interesting. I it may just be a coincidence, but Texas also is starting to stockpile receivers and prioritize receiver more than Sark has since he's been here, and probably more than Sark has ever as a head coach.
Yeah,
No doubt about that. So I don't know if they're going to get the 3 5-stars, but yeah, right now the predictions have Texas trending for all of them. And in the NIL world, they have a better chance of getting all those guys. And they also want to play with good quarterbacks, and Texas has really good quarterback play. All right, we'll get to the offensive line rankings a little bit later on. We don't really have enough time to dive into them, but they have Texas ranked 4th, I believe, among the best offensive lines in the country. So we'll talk about what that means, because they're gonna go up against probably the best 3D tackles maybe in the country. Michigan's got 2 of them. Kentucky's got another one. And Deion Walker. So they'll be tested, and we know line play in the SEC is king. So Texas is going to need their offensive line to be among one of the best if they're trying to make a run to the SEC title. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day, and we'll learn about the musically themed day of the week. And when we come back right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. It's one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, and it doesn't help the traffic. But it's also one of the reasons this city continues to thrive. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city that we hold dear and cherish, you may be driving by them right now, or maybe you're stuck in traffic watching them right now, are the Pennybacker Bridge, DKR Stadium, or a couple of them. But the folks over at Ironworkers Local 42 right now are engaged in another huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program, because right now they're hiring over 3,000 people to help them complete this big project, and you can be one of these lucky folks. So you've thought about an exciting new employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or maybe you've thought about a new challenge that you want in your employment, or you want to feel valued by your employer. You can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482, and right now it's the perfect time to do it. You can take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of this great city. So go online and apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org.
Back on the Rodcast here on a 512 Friday, playing local music for you where you can go check them out and see the bands live this weekend. All the bands are from Austin. All the bands are playing in Austin. This is Del Castillo, still some of the most amazing guitar playing that you will ever see. Some great stuff. They put on a great show. It's tons of fun. They're playing Friday tonight at Buck's Backyard. If you want to go check out Del Castillo, it is always a really fun show, and you'll be blown away by the guitar playing, flamenco guitar and other styles of guitar played by the Del Castillo brothers. Always a good show out there. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day today. Text line is open, 512-447-3776.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. I'll give you a couple of them because one's pretty with the 50-50, and then another one that we'll leave wide open for you in the text line. But the one we'll put up online is who will have a better series against their former team. We saw last night how it went. But will it be Kristaps Porzingis or Kyrie Irving in the entire series? We know game one heavily favored Kristaps Porzingis, but it was only game one. So who do you think will have a better series against their former team, Kristaps Porzingis or Kyrie Irving?
Man, Kyrie's 0-11, I think, his last 11 games against Boston.
Yeah, he's not done well. He hasn't been there, but can he exercise those demons?
Yeah, he needs to, because really, I think Derek White and Drew Holiday have had a lot of experience or success defending him.
Yeah,
I'm talking about in their like NBA careers.
And he clearly got in his own head yesterday, because there was one where Derek White didn't even do anything special. He dribbled off his own foot, and it's Kyrie Irving. Most players dribble off their own foot. You go, okay, it's Kyrie Irving. It's some of the best handles in NBA history, and dribbled off his foot. And you just say it's in his head a little bit too.
I'm with you. It should be Kyrie. It should be a no-brainer. But
it should be. But after game one, that's why I can ask the question. Is I couldn't ask that. But before yesterday,
should be a no-brainer.
If I asked that yesterday, we all say, "Well, it's Kyrie, and he wins a poll 100-0." But after game one, it's blatantly Kristaps after game one.
No, there's no doubt. After game one, I mean, Kyrie was a disappointment. There's no doubt. And one thing you talked about him, being mentally tough in that environment, and he was. I'm not gonna say he was weak, but he was definitely not mentally tough, because he did not deal with the external factors that were going on very well. I mean, he got booed mercilessly, and it seemed like it affected his game. He'll say it didn't, but it seemed like it affected his game.
I think the biggest thing for me what affected his game was when he didn't start off playing great and you just missed a couple shots. And that, that could be Boston. It could be whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. You also didn't play in the game for like a week. So, maybe you missed a couple shots. Was how he was playing, trying to force it and making moves and making plays that were not really Kyrie plays, and not passing the ball as well. And that was what was more alarming to me, was him, getting into his head that he can't beat Boston in Boston, that he has some mental block, or it's cursed in this town. But that's great. So you assume that he'll come out and play better in game two. You assume that he'll play much better when he gets back to Dallas. And, we saw Porzingis evened off a little bit in the second half. But that is a question for the poll. I will give you another question, too. So we talked about a little bit earlier that they're doing that big party on June 30th. They moved to the SEC, and they have not announced who the major artist is, the global superstar that they will announce. So I know we don't know who it is, but I will say, I'll ask you guys who you would want it to be. Who do you think is the right artist to play the SEC celebration? Who do you think is
realistic? Or we just said
anybody? We're not saying Tupac hologram, but we're saying who do you think is the right artist to go play it? Who do you think is the one that you would say, this is, if I was booking it, this is who I would book to play it?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, well, even what genre you want to go with that? You want to go country? You want to go pop? You want to go hip hop? You got to start. I think you got to start with the vibe that you want, and then the vibe will lead you to the genre. Genre will lead you to the artist. That's kind of how you go. Because right now, you saying it can be anybody. That's
it could be anybody
to start. Yeah,
because I would start with.
What's the vibe you want there? When is the act going to perform? Do we know it's going to be late?
It's I believe it's going to be at 8 p.m., 8 or 9 p.m., something like that.
Okay, so prime time. Oh man, that changes the vibe.
It'll be at the end of the celebration.
Oh, that changes the vibe. Okay, see, all right, that's a good question. Because, like I said, I'd go vibe genre to artist if I were the people out there.
So you're saying sun setting as the artist starts.
Right? Are we we rocking out here? Are we relaxing? Like what demo we?
No, we're not relaxing. You're going to the SEC.
Well, what demo are we trying to attract here too? I mean, we want olds. Are we trying to get young people? Like, it is a college. You want college age?
It is college, but also it is not the main season of school. It's not.
I know. As I'm saying,
so there will be plenty of students that are around, but not as many as you normally.
So what are we trying to attract here? That's also part of it.
I think you're trying to. I would assume you're trying to attract for the concert a younger audience because you want to get the older audience in there earlier to buy all the new merchandise.
Yeah, they're trying to go to sleep. They're like, hey man, that's 9:30. When does this stuff start? 9:30. I got to be in bed.
It is hot. It is hot out here.
That's true. That's a good point. So yeah, I don't know who it is, but yes, a global star.
A global.
Oh man, they've set themselves up for failure on that. They should have just said.
I'm so curious of who it's going to be because now everybody. But that's why I'm hyping it up more. Is I want to know who you guys think who you would book if you could book it. We've already got a George Strait. I knew a George Strait would be in there.
George Strait's great. I mean, yeah, they can afford George Strait, but George Strait's busy. And what George Strait's doing? Is he
I don't know. He's on his 58th retirement.
That's a big act. I mean, you're right. I mean, Texas can afford it. Well, how big are they willing to go for their SEC celebration? Like, because Texas can go as big as they want to. It's Texas.
Well, I believe too. At least part of this is going to be on the SEC network.
Exactly. So you want SEC to know that, hey man, here in Texas, everything's bigger. What starts here changes the world, that kind of thing. So what will have other SEC programs jealous of? Damn, there's no way we could get that.
No, you don't.
That's what you ultimately want, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. You want to get a big, and that's what I'm saying. It's too is like, do you want it to fit into the vibe of SEC more? Where you say, all right, let's go get somebody in that's.
No, I want somebody SEC knows that they couldn't even get. Texas could get them, but SEC can't get them.
Like
that's somebody I would like, and that would be a George Strait probably. I don't know if any other, maybe some SEC get that. I don't know. Somebody's gonna send me like CB will probably end up sending me like a video of George Strait hanging out at some.
Well, then George Strait, didn't he just play the Aggie thing? Like the Aggie fundraiser? I think he just played the Aggie fundraiser.
Oh, in that case, hell no. You got to move on.
Didn't he? Didn't he? Am I wrong about that?
If he did, do not get George Strait. Because the Aggies will never let you hear the end of it. You do not want to do that. Do not follow Aggie.
Because I feel like that was that they were trying to clown us because we had Brooks and Dunn and they had George Strait. I feel like that if I remember that.
Well, if that is the case. No, if you're right, then hell no, don't get him. You gotta. How can you? Then you got to go to another genre. You got to pivot genres if you can't get somebody bigger.
What about this one? The
George Strait in country.
I'll tell you what. Why don't we take the break? We'll come back and I'll give you some more. Give us some more on the text line 512-447-3776. We can go through them when we come back.
Yeah, we ain't following Aggie like that. Hell no, never. All right, we come back. We'll get into that and more right here on the Rodcast. Featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on. Welcome back to the Rodcast, a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. 512 Friday means my man Patrick Davis, my co-host, the Idillionaire. He plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented folks that you have a chance to see live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Ray Prim, and he is going to be playing Saturday at the Continental Club.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. I like the groove of this. Nice.
Yeah, Ray Prim, very talented.
Maybe, maybe he can be one of the artists that's considered. And well, I don't know if he's global. Though.
I don't know if he's a global superstar. Global
superstar. That's what they're talking about here. We're talking about the SEC celebration that's going to take place on the 40 acres at the end of this month. And Texas teased that they were going to have a global superstar, someone who's internationally known to play the concert that night. And we are just now kind of speculating. That's one of the topics for the Big Fat Poll of the day is throw out there, what artist should it be?
Yeah,
artist or group or band?
Yeah.
That it should be. What musical act should it be?
Yeah,
and you did confirm your George Strait.
George Strait is playing in Kyle Field on June 15th. So he's out. And by the way, someone did say George Strait is an Aggie. I don't believe it. He went to Texas State, is where George Strait went to school.
Oh, but he claims like
so he may claim the Aggies, but I don't know that. But I know he went to Texas State. We've got a couple other ones to throw for you there. A couple people, multiple people saying Beyonce.
Oh, that's big.
That's global.
H-Town. That's H-Town. She does.
She had that one.
There have been a Texas connection. She's been seeing a Texas jersey, the David Ash jersey, famously.
Yep.
I'm all for it. You know, my wife's a les Beyonce. She
so you have to be out there.
Beyonce. I might get dragged out. If Beyonce is there, my wife will force me to go, and I don't even know who's gonna take care of the baby. I might be taking care of the baby. She might leave me at home. It might be out there. No, seriously, I'm not. That is actually not a joke. My wife loves Beyonce. I call her a les Beyonce because she would become a lesbian only for Beyonce.
Yeah.
Like she is obsessed with that woman. So yes, that's money.
Yeah,
that's
money. I feel like that may be a little bit too big.
That is huge.
Because Beyonce's stage, like what she does on the stage, I don't know if they could pull off in setting up and putting together in that amount of time. It would be huge, but it's like $1 million production top. You're talking about a lot of cost in production value to put it together. That's why that could be a problem, because you're probably gonna get someone who doesn't necessarily need the whole show of like backup dancers and all that. But no, I like it. I like several people at that. We get Garth Brooks, but Garth Brooks is an Oklahoma State guy.
Yeah. If you got a school affiliation,
he's an Oklahoma State.
You're out of it. You can't. If you got a school affiliation, you're out of it. I agree. Even if you don't go there, but just like they said, if George Strait's like affiliated with the Aggies, then can't.
Yeah. So I mean, most of these guys are gonna have some, but I just know it's like you can have an affiliation to a school, but it can't be a school that we're like Big 12 or SEC
or the rivals with.
Yeah, rivals or So that one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I like the Beyonce one, but you're right. She almost be maybe too big. You got to find somebody that doesn't have that much of a spectacle every time they perform. That they could just kind of come out there and perform. It's interesting. I can't wait to see what else they got on the Specs text line, because even I'm kind of stumped on it.
No, we got some more in here that I can tell you are not global superstars. Of course, we got a Willie Nelson in there, but like Cody Johnson is doing well. I would not say he's a global superstar. I don't know if he would fall in that. Yeah. He's doing very well for himself right now.
Man, he's just gonna be Pitbull. Damn it! It's gonna be Pitbull. I know it. You know it is. Y'all know it's. We all know it. We all know it's Pitbull.
It just feels like global superstar feels like Pitbull, right?
It feels like Pitbull wrote that. It feels like Pitbull people specifically gave him that say, "Hey, use this line." It's gonna be Pitbull. We know it. Damn it.
Oh, right. Come on.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, though. I think Pitbull is a great barometer, though. I think that's right on the line of barometer of if it's better than Pitbull, you'll be thrilled. But it can't be worse than Pitbull either. Because
you're right.
That line, I think it's a great line of where it is. Because if it's Pitbull, you're like, it is okay, whatever. None of us are staying for it. We're gonna go home. I don't know what generation is staying for that one, but
that's a great point. It's the Pitbull standards. Like, is worse than Pitbull? Then damn, why didn't we just get Pitbull? But if that's we got that guy, why would you get Pitbull? Oh man, yeah, it just feels like I don't know why, and blame Patrick because Patrick, I think he was the one who says I don't know, it feels like Pitbull. It does kind of feel like Pitbull more the more we talk about it, unfortunately. All right, so that's one of the topics for the Big Fat Poll today. Give the folks the other topic, and then we'll get to the Horn headlines and get into some of this NIL conversation.
The other topic is who will have a better series against their former team. Kristaps Porzingis had it in game 1, but for the entire series, do you think it'll be Porzingis or Kyrie Irving playing against their former team, a team that they were deemed that they could not win a title with? One of them is going to win the title with the other one. So who do you think is going to have the better series?
Like I said, thought it was a no-brainer. Turns out it's maybe an interesting question because Kristaps Porzingis looked fantastic. It didn't look like he had any rust, and the injury did not look like it hampered him in the least. And he's gonna play more. And the assumption is he was going to get better throughout the series. Everybody thought he's going to start slow. And like, oh no, by third game, he'll get.
He's not going to play better.
Under him.
He's not going to play better in that first half. He's not.
I don't
he can
think
play,
so. But
he might be able to play as well as that at points, but he ain't going to play better.
He was 4 or 5. Like the first 7 minutes, I think he was 4 or 5 with 3 blocks. He had a couple of rebounds. I mean, he was just in a zone. Yeah. He was a one-man wrecking crew out there at one point. So no, you can't play better. But my point is he'll play longer, and then maybe he can play just as consistent. I guess like you're right, but still that just made them even scarier. The thought was that he was going to start slow. That was not the case. So that's the other topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Let's hit the Horn headlines here. Get updated, educated, informed on all the top stories of the day. Then we'll hit this NIL survey and this what is a brilliant money-making idea. Oftentimes when you have an idea that it's just a simple solution to a common problem, and then you're on to something, and nobody else has thought of this kind of simple solution to a common problem. Well, there's a common problem now in college football because of the new framework that is expected with the new agreement and the antitrust settlements. Basically, the common problem is, what are these athletes valued at? Like, what is the fair market value of these athletes? Because they have dragged their feet on, trying to usher in the free market into college sports. They've never really considered. The NFL we know what the value of players is. They got an actual franchise tag that literally gives you values of players. We track salary, so we go, hey, well, the value of this player is this and this. We talk about it all the time. Where CeeDee Lamb's gonna be slided right here behind Justin Jefferson, slide at this position, the highest paid wide receiver. So we literally know the fair market value for the players, and therefore the salary cap can be adjusted accordingly. All these different methods, right, for accounting and all this kind of stuff. We don't know that in college. Nobody's really assessed the fair market values, but we think we know. We have hypothesized what the fair market value is for this quarterback or for this position. Now they actually have to figure it out. If they're going to have like a salary cap, if they're going to have a roster limit, they got to figure out, well, how are we going to distribute this money? And how much is each position going to get, and what players, how do we distribute it, and how does this change NIL? It is fascinating. And I really am interested to see exactly how they solve some of these problems. There is one company, Open Doors, you've probably heard of them. They track NIL transactions across the country. They believe they have at least figured out a solution to the fair market value problem. Like what are these positions and what are these players valued at now that the free market has officially slapped college football in the face? All right, so we'll get into that coming up. And also this NIL survey, I think, which is also goes to the very question, what's the NIL value? Because these prospects, apparently they have an expectation coming out of high school into college. And by the way, they just passed legislation in Florida that high school kids can sign NIL deals.
Yep, I saw that.
And just so you know, to compete, there will be other states who will change their laws so that their high school kids can sign NIL deals. Could you imagine? Crazy. I was born way too early. Oh man, the NIL world makes me. I've never been jealous of the latest generation. I've been jealous of the youth. NIL makes me a little jealous of the youth. Yeah, I mean the truth is, at a point you can basically set yourself up for life just by having a really good college career, potentially, with some of the, if obviously good financial decisions, sound financial decisions. But It is fascinating, kind of what's going on right now in college sports. So we'll get to that. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball finished an amazing season, coming up just short against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series Finals yesterday, 8-4. Texas will now look forward to adding to an already strong roster that entered the NCAA tournament as the 1 seed while celebrating all of their success from the season. In the NBA, the Celtics took game 1 of the finals in a commanding fashion, going on a big run to end the first quarter, up 37-20, before ending the first half 63-42. The Mavs fought back in the third, cutting the lead to 8 before a 14-0 Celtics run that proved too much for Dallas. The Mavs will try to regroup and solve the problems in their offense before Game 2 on Sunday. In Major League Baseball, the Astros begin their series with the Angels tonight, sending Framber Valdez to the mound in a game where they hope to have Kyle Tucker and Bregman return to the lineup. And the Rangers take on the Giants with Michael Lorenzen getting the start while they try to wait to see how Corey Seager's hamstring feels before they decide the severity of the injury. That is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Okay, so this company Open Doors, and we've talked about them before because they're the ones who actually, this is maybe a year ago, maybe it's a little longer than a year ago. I did a rant about it. They had a great article about them in the Austin Business Journal, if I'm not mistaken. And they said Texas was one of the leaders, if not the leader, in the NIL space in terms of how much revenue they were generating for their athletes and NIL compensation, NIL opportunities, NIL deals. And so they track them around the country. They track different programs, NIL deals around the country, hundreds of programs. And so they've been around for a while since the change of NIL becoming the law of the land. Since its inception, they have been around. They've been tracking these deals. So they actually know what kind of the fair market value and the worth is of different players, positions, guys who in the transfer portal, like how much their value increases, decreases as a result of them moving around. They've been keeping up with it, and they got all the data. A lot of people don't have this data. They do because they've been keeping up with it. And they are actually starting a kind of a new business model where they're announcing 2 new solutions for the next era of NIL: Open Doors budgets and FMV assessments. The FMV stands for fair market value assessment. So essentially, they are going to give programs, I'm imagining, who will pay them good money for this service, and they'll give you the fair market value of positions based on their data, based on the 3 years of data they have of NIL transactions and NIL deals all across the country with all these different collectives and directives across the country. They have access to it. They have the information. So now they can give you kind of an average of the fair market value over the last couple of years of this position, or this position from the portal, or this position out of high school, or this position of, this 5-star rating or this 4-star rating or whatever it may be. They have all that information. And right now, one of the big issues for the schools is, okay, we got revenue sharing. We have no idea how to distribute this because we don't know the value of these players and their positions. We hadn't been tracking this. Why the hell they haven't been tracking? I don't know. You would think they would get their most of these are research institutions, they're academic institutions. Why not just have your own, inside, group or whatever, council, committee, data scientists that can also track these transactions, at least for your own university. But even that probably wouldn't help you as much. I'm sure universities have that information. Some do. They wouldn't help you as much because you need the national averages, and you ain't going to get that information from other directives or collectives. Now, maybe you can, but you'd basically kind of be starting the same business model that Open Doors is. And if universities haven't done that, then they can go to Open Doors and try to get some range of the fair market value of players in the new NIL era that we're living in. So there you go. Remember we talked about another company, was it Redbird Capital? They were basically a bunch of venture capitalists, and they had acquired $10 billion in equity. and to help universities close the gap in finances with this new revenue sharing deal to close that potentially a $20 million gap. They were going to offer them private capital investments. Like, hey man, we'll give you $20 million. You can use it however you want to use it. You just got to pay us back, with interest over this amount of time, that kind of stuff. And they said also they're not thinking about equity, but equity could also be something that is discussed, which is when you have kind of a partner, kind of ownership of based on that money that's given, you have a stake in the team. Now that's a whole different conversation than private capital. But you see all these stories are coming out because, and we just covered one earlier today about logos now allowed on college football fields. This is all to try to close the financial gap that is expected, to try to close it, because with revenue sharing, these schools have got to come up with tens of millions of dollars to try to close this revenue sharing gap. And don't forget, they also got to pay the antitrust settlements. That's also got to happen too. They, on top of the money they got to have for the revenue sharing that's coming up, they got to pay off the antitrust settlements, which is, I don't know how much is for every school. I think it's like $10 million or something like that over a long period of time, like $10 to $20 million, but it's over a period of time. I haven't done the research or the exact amount, but they have to settle that as well. And that's on every school is going to share that burden. So it's, I mean, this is another way that the free market is affecting college sports. Fair market value. You're going to start hearing that term a lot.
No, and I mean, but that's kind of where you want to go with the NIL at a certain point, of where we keep hearing these stories of a player basically coming in and asking for well over fair market value, and they're getting it at places. So they're getting, or they're at least getting more than we thought they were going to get. We see, where people are going to schools where you wouldn't necessarily assume that person would normally go to. And then you see a late swing of, everyone has a prediction one way, and then there's a late swing because someone gets paid a little bit more. It once you were able to say a little bit more of, everybody's fine with paying, and if you're a special player, they can get there. But to even it out a little bit more, to I think give everyone a shot. And for Texas, Texas is gonna have a shot with anybody anyway, because they have the money to do it. But I think if you can even it out a little bit more, it may help out some of the NIL athletes who are not necessarily, instead of having the trying to get a quarterback make 14 million and then a right guard make 50,000.
It's crazy.
Those types of things. Maybe it evens out a little bit more if you pull fair market value and you realize that no quarterback is making that amount of money. So why is the school promising that?
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Speaking of, there was a survey done by On3. There was pretty much a seminar educating the top 2025 high school football recruits on NIL and entrepreneurship and branding and marketing. And it took place in Nashville. And at this seminar, they surveyed these top recruits about NIL. And they surveyed 41 blue chip recruits. And they said 41, I said 5 declined and 36 opted in. So they got 36 of them. They said 33 listed the amount of money they wanted in NIL packages, like what they were expecting to get. The majority desired financial packages range from $200,000 to $600,000. These are some of the top recruits in the country. So that's where their minds is like, hey man, wait, 200 to 600,000. That's what I'm gonna get. With the median being 400,000. So that's the median average of what these prospects expected to get an NIL deal when they came out of high school was 400,000. The lowest recorded NIL offer wanted was 33,000. So there's a really humble athlete out there who's like, 33,000, that's enough for me.
I'll take 30. Well, don't say 30. That's too easy. No, 33. Okay, we're negotiating now.
I mean 333. So you missed it. I said 333. They said so more than 20 of these athletes asked to fill out the survey were rated as 5 stars. So these are the best athletes in the country. So not everybody's going to be on this scale. It also said here 22 recruits provided details for the amount of money they desired in their largest NIL package to date. In a surprising outcome, 12 said they were content with taking less money than their largest NIL offer. which was 54%, excuse me, of the pool who answered both questions. So you did have 54% of these participants in this survey that at least were answering that question, who said they would take less money to make sure that they picked the right school, that they had the right fit.
Yeah.
Now, taking less money doesn't mean you ain't taking no money. They just said,
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
take less money. But to me, what that means is, so you still got 46% of these young men who are saying, oh, no. I need
just
the
about
dollar figure. So to me, that's what I took out. I was like, well, and that number is going to only increase. That'll be more than 50% by next year. Like, no, I need the money. Because you want to know why, Patrick? Because I can transfer.
Yeah.
There are no transfer limits now. Why the hell would I be worried about the sentimental approach to this thing now? It's like, no, I can. I need to get the bag. I gotta get the big bag one time or another. Either I'm getting the big bag when I'm transferring out of this school to go somewhere else, or I'm getting the big bag initially. I don't know when, but I got to get the big bag because I got to use my leverage. I may go to college and I may suck. Who knows?
Yeah.
I may get hurt. It may not work out. I got to get the big bag. So now they're almost thinking like how professionals
I think there's more reality of I want to get the big bag 3 times.
Yeah,
I want to out of high school. I want to
true.
transfer twice. I want to play. I want to get there. I want a big bag every single time. And then I want to go to the NFL and get drafted. I want all the bags.
A lot of big bags. Yeah, I want all the bags.
Well, all the bags.
I think you're right. I mean, honestly, I would not, and I can't get mad at a young person for thinking like that. I can't, because if you're talking about these kind of figures, if you're talking about $500,000, guys, this is life-changing money at the age of 18. And you can put that money in the bank and and like you said, Patrick, you got another chance to also hit the market again via the transfer portal, make another bag, and then so you can easily make like $1 million before you get out of college, just making the right moves. And by the way,
play well enough.
If you play well enough, because you can, and this is why. Okay, this is also something in terms of fair market value. The NCAA does not. I don't know if they should be in charge of this. I don't know if because I just don't trust them. It's like you and the Cowboys, Patrick.
No, I don't.
I just don't. Yeah, it's like I don't trust them. I don't trust them with these decisions. Okay, I'm gonna read the name, image, and likeness compensation rule for the NCAA, and you tell me if this makes sense to you. So it says an individual may receive compensation for the use of the individual's name, image, and likeness, which may be secured or compensation based in whole or in part on athletic skill or reputation. Name, image, and likeness activities may not be used to compensate a student athlete for athletics participation or achievement. So what they're saying is, which is weird, so you can be paid for your name, image, and likeness, which is related to your performance, but you can't be compensated for achievement or performance.
So they're basically saying you can't put incentives in an NIL deal, right? So
you can't say after you don't get to change the deal after you've already signed it and get more money.
Well, I think there's
no bonuses. There's no bonus structure.
Well, yeah, I think you can't say, all right, here's an NIL deal. If you sign this deal with us, if you rush for 500 yards, you make $50,000. You rush for 100. If you run for 1,000 yards, you make $100,000. If you win the Heisman, you make $500,000. If you win a national championship, you make $1 million. You can't make that structured deal.
I agree, but that's still kind of stupid because you get paid for it because you're going to re-up with your team the next year after you have that great year. After you rush for 1,000 yards, after I get 1,000 yards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to threaten him. See, if you put in the bonus structure, you got a chance potentially to keep the kid. Because now the kid who's being underpaid is upset because he's outperforming his contract. He's like, I'm in the transfer portal, so I can give my fair market value is, all right. And then they hit the transfer portal so they can get the other bag, which they believe they deserve for that 1,000-yard season they just had where they were underpaid. See, this is the problem, NCAA. You don't understand the free market. What the hell are you talking about here? You don't pay. Of course they're paying for performance. And if the guy sucks, by the way, and we're overpaying him, what's the school going to do? Pull the NIL deal. Nope, you ain't getting that NIL deal you got last time. Everybody's getting paid on performance. What are we talking about?
And the reason why it's dumb, and I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. The reason why it's dumb to do it, if that's what they're meaning, if that's, I'm reading of it. If no lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. I'm good at bird law. That's it. But I think the reality is, if you look at like Nike contracts, if you're a tennis player and you're playing Nike, the more finals you make, the more matches you play on TV, the more money you make. So it is still reward based. Like in name, image, and likeness deals, sponsorships for major brands, that's how it works for other things. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not something that is, it's not something that's unique to this area or whatever. I don't know. Maybe there's another way. They're scared of it, or they're worried about coaches not playing players to save NIL money or whatever the deal would be. I don't know what it could be, but I'm with you. I I think the more you try and put weird restrictive rules on it and not go, hey, let's try and regulate it, let's try and make this a little bit more transparent, at least for the schools. The stuff doesn't have to leak out as much or whatever, but like, let's make it so we're not getting these ridiculous shady contracts. We don't have guys like the Miami guy who came in and spent all this money and couldn't afford it, and let's try and get rid of that stuff from it. But the more we make it above bar, the more a kid might see, okay, well, now I'm getting offered this, and like that, they're offering this guy this much, and okay, maybe I won't hit the transfer portal because I understand what's out there now, versus I get it in because I'm getting the intel from my people that I should go in, and I realize the bag isn't there. Like that stuff.
They need clarity and transparency, and I agree. That's exactly what you're describing. The convoluted language in this doesn't make sense because it's all semantics, right? The difference between athletic skill and athletic participation and athletic performance and athletic production. It's like, what are you talking about, man? I agree. Just kind of, you need to go kind of closer to the NFL model. And honestly, if you want to put in incentives, you can do that. I don't know if that's the way they're interpreted, but for me, it says basically the real difference between basically paying college athletes NIL compensation based on his or her athletic skill versus paying them for their athletic performance. That is a kind of a legal argument, right? I mean, that's something that can be settled in a court of law, and I think that's ultimately what they want. They want to give themselves wiggle room. They don't like things to be black and white. They want to give us wiggle room so they can go to court. They're going to lose in court. That's what they keep losing in court because of this type of language. It doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? Like, of course we're playing them for performance. What are you talking about? NIL is the compromise, but still they're paying, because if you don't perform, your NIL money will go down. You will lose those deals. The deals are all based on performance, and guys that perform, they get bigger deals. Like, what? That's what I'm saying. This veil of amateurism they're still trying to protect is ridiculous. Guys, it's dead. It's dead. It's accepted. It's dead. It's gone. They got revenue sharing now, NIL deals. At this point, they will say every great cause begins as a movement, turns into a business, deteriorates into a racket. We're already at the racket phase of NIL. Like, and it's because of the NCAA that it's a racket, because they decided to ignore it and they wanted it to get to racket phase. But it's okay because they're still, in my opinion, they're still they cannot be trusted, and they are not the institution that should be leading college football into the future. And the future, they shouldn't be helping construct the future framework of college football, because I don't think they're trustworthy.
Nope, I'm with you.
All right. Well, there you go. Enough rant. I guess that was the rant today. We'll come back. We'll talk NFL on the other side. We'll get into Xavier Worthy signing his big deal. AD Mitchell signed his big deal in the league. We'll talk about what is expected from those guys and how the teams are expected to weaponize Xavier Worthy and AD Mitchell. All of that will return right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? This is your lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Austin is a great city, and one of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, making it one of the fastest growing cities in the country, is because of the unique culture, the great food, the great people, and also the city itself is such a unique city. All the iconic landmarks here in Austin that people cherish. And one thing you may not know is that many of those iconic landmarks that you love and hold so dear were actually created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, right now is the perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. They're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. Become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So go online to apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's Round the Day. Congratulations are in order to both A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Both of those guys signed. I think Devontae Sweat signed his deal too, actually, with the Tennessee Titans. I saw that a couple of days ago. Xavier Worthy, though, in the first round, signed his deal 4 years, $13.7 million, fully guaranteed in his rookie contract. And just thinking about that. That draft pick, and I remember saying at the time, I don't know if there's a better fit for any player for the team that drafted them than Xavier Worthy to the Kansas City Chiefs. And it just seemed like it was the ideal fit. I wasn't the only one saying it. Of course, a lot of folks were echoing that same sentiment before the draft. And of course, all the pieces fell into place. Xavier Worthy going to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I was, I've been saying for a while, they want to bring back the deep ball. I believe they're also re-signing McCole Hardman. So they got 4 wide receivers now, and a lot of speed. This is the fastest wide receiving core in the league now with Xavier Worthy. You got Hollywood Brown now they've added to the mix. Got Rashee Rice, of course, still there, and they're gonna re-sign McCole Hardman. So this is they're adding a lot more speed. They do want to bring back the deep ball and the vertical passing game. I've talked about that. Patrick Mahomes last year, average depth of his touchdown pass was less than 4 yards. You go look at 2019, it was 17 yards was the average length of a Patrick Mahomes touchdown pass. I mean, they've taken the deep ball essentially out of that offense. So I think they do want to bring back the deep ball. But what so many people don't bring up enough is that when Kansas City basically decided to curtail the vertical shots downfield, they lost Tyreek Hill, and then the wide receiving core, of course, was underperforming early on last season. They became a yak yardage team. And this is where Xavier Worthy comes into play. And I found this, that I was talking to actually the lead data scientist at the University of Texas. And she told me, NFL teams reach out to her department and her all the time. And she said, mostly it's data scientists and scouts because they want to know if their data science is revealing the same thing about a player that the university's data science does. And I don't know if this was the case for Xavier Worthy, but it doesn't make sense. You can argue Xavier Worthy was been one of the best yak daddies in college football in his career. When last year he was ranked 9th in the FBS with 584 yards after the catch. The Chiefs, and I saw this when I was doing some research about Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs actually led the NFL, the highest percentage of passing yards coming after the catch. So they basically took the vertical game that they obviously had majored in with Tyreek Hill, and they just turned that into yak yardage. So now their explosive plays come via yak yardage underneath throws where guys can get yards after the catch. So over 60% of Patrick Mahomes' yards came on passing yards after the catch. And that was, I think it was third in 2022. So they've been top 3 the last 2 years. So instead of the vertical shots downfield, they've just been hurting teams, being able to scheme guys open with separation and Patrick Mahomes delivering the ball on the money so that they can get those yak yards. So with Xavier Worthy, who's also, like I said, one of the best yak yardage receivers in the game, makes perfect sense. And Sark's offense, Sark has the best scheme separation. If you look at the amount of separation receivers have, catch separation they have when they make the catch, which is I count it as how well they've been schemed open. Sark has the best catch separation in the Power 5. And that's very similar to Andy Reid because Andy Reid can scheme guys open really well. So that's why Xavier Worthy will fit really well in that offense because, like I said, he'll get those yak yards. I still think he's going to bring the deep ball element. But keep in mind, Xavier Worthy wasn't great at the deep ball here at Texas, right? I mean, that was one of the big issues in terms of the chemistry between he and Quinn Ewers. They couldn't connect on the deep ball, and it didn't make sense. You had the fastest player in college football, and you had Quinn Ewers, who argued as one of the best arms in college football. They couldn't connect on the deep ball. If you go look at the deep ball percentage, it's a completion rate for Quinn Ewers and Xavier Worthy, just them on 20-plus yard targets, 25%. Third worst mark in the FBS over the past 3 seasons among qualifying receivers. Like, it was like bad. The scouts in the NFL think it was more Quinn Ewers' fault and not Xavier. I mean, Xavier had 47 explosive receptions of 20 yards or more over 2 seasons. He was always explosive. No matter who was throwing the football, the belief is that Quinn was the reason that there were some off-target throws. Xavier Worthy's 9.2 career yards per target on deep passes, 20 yards or more down the field, was the worst of any projected non-undrafted free agent Power 5 receiver in this receiving class. He had a 22.4% off-target rate. That was also the highest in this receiving class. Scouts are they're actually, I don't know if it's fair or not, they're more blaming Quinn Ewers for that and not Xavier Worthy's skill set. When they watch film, they're saying Xavier Worthy's open, he's got scheme separation, and more the ball's off. Yes, there was some drops in there, but they're saying that's when he had his broken hand. So from that's going to be interesting because the Chiefs believe that, Patrick Mahomes has proven that he's a great deep ball thrower, but the last couple of years they've curtailed the deep ball from that offense. They become more of a short intermediate passing game. As a matter of fact, if you go look at Patrick Mahomes is 20, if you go look at passes on 20 plus yards over the last year, I should say, his adjusted completion percentage is 42%. That's not elite. That's 17th, basically. It's average. And that's what he's been the last couple of years without Tyreek Hill, which is why they changed the offense a little bit. They evolved it, turned into a short, intermediate passing game. So now it's only a 2-level passing offense. I think they want to get the third level back, which is the vertical element, and they want Xavier Worthy and they want Hollywood Brown to help them do that. And so, but the point is, they're going off of their own belief and their own evaluation that, oh no, Xavier Worthy will translate to being a really good deep target. It just didn't happen at Texas because Quinn Ewers and he didn't have the chemistry to get it done. So that's also something to consider. Also, why he's also a great match for Kansas City. Kansas City uses a lot of motion as well. They should. A lot of pre-snap motion and shifts. I've talked about how Sark doesn't use it enough, and you should use more pre-snap motion and shifts. The Chiefs were 4th in pre-snap motion in the NFL behind the Dolphins, 49ers, Rams, mostly those Mick Shanahan offenses that Sark likes so much. And I always said Sark needs to use more pre-snap motion. He's around 50, 55%, but he uses it really well when you're talking about targets to motion. I remember the stat from Xavier Worthy's first year on yards per catch on plays with pre-snap motion. He was over 20 yards per catch on plays with pre-snap motion. And if you look at targets to motion in Sark's offense, it's one of the deadliest concepts you can use. Last year, if you look at targets to motion, and this is a target to a player who was in motion prior to the snap or at the time of the snap, completion percentage, 78%. Explosive play rate, over 20%, over 10 yards per attempt. Same thing last year. Completion percentage, over 80%. Yards per attempt, over 10 yards per attempt. Your explosive play rate, really high, over 20%. Same thing in 2021. Over 80% completion percentage, only over 8 yards per attempt, still pretty damn good. But your first down touchdown rate was over 30%. I mean, it's really, really effective. And nobody in the NFL arguably targets to motion more or better than the Kansas City Chiefs, scheming things open. So it's just such a great fit, period. I mean, for so many different reasons, maybe not for the deep ball. I think Xavier Worthy is going to prove that he's a great deep ball threat in the NFL. And then Longhorn fans are probably going to be more upset because he wasn't more of a deep threat here at Texas. I think that's going to translate to the NFL for him, even though it did not necessarily materialize at Texas. But all the reasons I just gave you, he's an ideal fit. The reason A.D. Mitchell's an ideal fit is A.D. Mitchell's going to get man-to-man coverage consistently. Here's my one concern with A.D. Mitchell. I need to see him beat press better because there's going to be a lot more press. He's going to see a lot more of it. Remember I said the NFL is becoming more of a press league because they are trying to limit the quick game. 60% of the NFL is quick game, 3-step drop, balls out quick, right? And RPO is quick game plus run game, balls out quick. You want to limit that by disrupting the timing of the wide receivers, rerouting those guys, and then you can disrupt the timing of those quick underneath routes. So A.D. Mitchell's going to see more bump and run coverage. And I went and tracked his bump and run numbers from last year. Xavier Worthy was actually much better against bump and run coverage than A.D. Mitchell. Higher catch rate, more receiving yards, a higher average depth of target when seeing press. A.D. Mitchell's going to see a lot of press in the NFL. The only thing I think that can hold him back from being a star with the Colts is how he handles press coverage. That would be that's something because they didn't get a lot of it at Texas. In Texas, even in college, you don't get corners who are elite press coverage specialists. He'll see some of those in the league. He'll see, and there are NFL teams that will decide, no, we're just gonna put our best press coverage corner on A.D. Mitchell out there and leave him alone, and we're gonna either zone up or roll coverage to the other side and see if the rookie can win. And I think he can, but like I said, that is one of the only, I'm going to say it's a concern, but it is a question mark when it comes to A.D. Mitchell. All right, that's a little rant here talking about AD Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. Congrats to both who are signing their deals. How they're going to fit with their new team, scheme fit with their new teams. All right, we come back. We have what the facts, what the stats on the other side. We'll share some of those with you from the sports world, also beyond. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Bader's coming back on the horn.
Hey, I want to tell you about our friends at Texan Windows. They're your new and replacement window experts here in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. If summertime is getting you using your back door a little bit more and it's a sliding glass door, you should check out Texan Windows and make sure you have the best and easiest to open, best looking sliding glass door. Or if you want to just up your curb appeal, maybe looking to get some new windows that look a little bit better, you can go see your yard from the inside out and they can see outside in. It can be really great. You want to change the operation of your windows, maybe take the grids off your glass, whatever you feel you want, Texan Windows can do it, but it's not just about the looks.
Oh, yeah, not just about the looks. That's one of the advantages of getting brand new windows from Texan Windows. But my favorite reason for reaching out to Texan Windows is the money that you could save, folks. You're talking about saving a lot of money on your annual energy bills with energy-efficient windows from Texan Windows. All their windows come with argon-filled double-pane low-E glass. Just a really fancy way of saying it'll keep your house really cool during those hot Texas summer days, which are fast approaching. It'll keep your house warm during those winter months as well. The replacement windows can help with energy efficiency, and you can also personalize these windows to give them your own personal touch. And also, you can have the best technology when it comes to child-proofing windows. I have an 8-month on the house, so we're child-proof and everything. If you got old windows, it's not gonna be really tough to child-proof those windows. They don't have the latest safety protocols. They're not technologically up to date. That would not be the case with Texan Windows. They can replace those, so you can not only safeguard your home, but also safeguard your family as well. And Texan Windows can help you do that. My man Patrick will give you all the information on how you can reach out.
You can get started though at TexanWindows.com or call them at 855-55-TEXAN. You get a hassle-free estimate by email or over the phone. And just go stop by their showroom. They got one in Buda, new one over there in Buda, or the one in Fort Worth, and check out their in-stock windows. It's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas window experts.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats here. Okay, so yesterday, I don't know, maybe it was all the talk, all the buzz about the college football playoff schedule being released, and then the comparisons, or at least not comparisons, but aligning that calendar with the NFL calendar, and talking about the crossover that you would have, and then the schedule, the sports gasm that we're all going to experience from December 20th to January 20th when you have so many great days of football. I believe you only have like in that from that stretch. I believe there are only at that point like 4 days without football. But I found the bowl schedule because I was like, you know what, we got bowls during that time too. So basically from December 17th to January 20th, because that's when some of your bowls will start too. You'll only have 8 days without football.
Oh man, a whole 8 days.
You have a whole, so you
terrible.
got there'll be 35 days total from the 17th to the 20th. And I believe, yeah, you got eight days total without football. If the way I found it right, I believe it's the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 12th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th. So take it back. Actually, I got 7 here.
Okay.
Take it back. So 7 days. I take it back. So just 7 days without football. I take that back. Yeah, so that's pretty good. If you consider the bowl games too, and there are a couple of bowl games that have not really announced their dates. They didn't announce like the date, so there are a couple of them that's still up in the air. But I believe from December 20th to December 17th, to January 20th, you're gonna have out of those days, you're gonna have only 7 days without football in that stretch.
Yeah,
not all of it will be great football. Some of it's bowl games.
No, but you get things like December 28th, which doesn't have a game, that doesn't have a big college game or a big NFL game, is the Snoop Dogg Bowl.
The Snoop Dogg Bowl,
which
I forgot all about the Snoop Dogg Bowl. Yeah,
it's not going to be a great game. Apparently, it's going to be Mountain West and Mid American conferences. That's who's going to be in it. But
football,
the spectacle of that thrown in with what are they going to do with Snoop Dogg and Dre and all of that makes that it's watchable. We'd probably be watchable.
It is watchable. No, I'm with you. So there you go. You'll have a really good stretch. Like I said, in from like December 17th to January 20th. If you're a football fan, you're talking full-on sportsgasm because you'll have the best college football of the season with bowls and playoffs, and you'll have some of the best NFL football too because it'll be at the end of the season and teams will be fighting for playoff spots, and then you'll get the playoffs on top. At least the early round of the playoffs, you get the super wild card round is thrown in there, and the divisional round. You get divisional round too. So I don't know if there'll be a better time for football ever. I don't know if there's been a better time for football in the history of football than from December 17th to January 20th. That may be the greatest 30 plus days of football in the history of the game in America. Think about that.
Man,
first
that
time we've had a college football playoff.
That hangover after January 20th, like after the game, and you're like, we got to wait all the way till Sunday for that's going to be painful.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about that, like we've never had playoffs, so you're going to really good college football playoff games, and the NFL to start the playoffs, the wild card and divisional round are always great, and the NFL doesn't disappoint. And then you can throw in your little bowl games in there, which at times they can be thrilling too. We've never had this before, and there's never been a stretch of football like this before.
No,
so there you go.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the NBA finals. We'll talk about the Mavs and the Old Testament, old biblical style butt whipping they took at the hands of the Celtics. And we'll also get into some Texas football conversation, go behind the burnt orange curtain, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It's jamming a little bit. 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. Oh, actually, Freak Flag, Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Ideallionaire Patrick Davis, he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who is jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Honey Maid, and they're playing tonight at Central Machine Works, and I believe they're going to be doing a tribute to Prince during the show as well.
Hey,
so a little pinch
nice,
because it's Prince's birthday tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow, today or tomorrow, it's Prince's birthday, so they're doing that's why we did Prince earlier on the One Artist Wednesday, but they're doing a tribute to Prince.
Beautiful. I like that. Nice. All right, there you go. So that 512 Friday, always a great musically themed day of the week because you can sound cool in front of your friends, like you actually know, like you're in the know, and you know a lot of the other great acts are playing this weekend. So we appreciate Patrick. Also appreciate him for the topic of the Big Fat Poll of the day. There are two of them actually. One is SEC celebration related,
yes,
and the other is about the NBA Finals.
Yes, the first one about the NBA Finals is who will have a better series against their former team, whether it's Kyrie Irving or Kristaps Porzingis. I think we would have all answered that differently before game one. We would have said it was going to be Kyrie, but Kristaps had a much better game one than Kyrie Irving did. So I think it begs the question now, in the remaining games of the series, however many there are, who will have the better series? I think Mavs fans are going to really hope it's Kyrie, because if it's not Kyrie, then that's going to end poorly for the Mavs, most likely, if he cannot pick it up and play better. But that is one of our questions. And the other question of the Big Fat Poll is the June 30th big SEC celebration is happening, where they have announced that there will be a global superstar headlining the music show. And they have not said who the global superstar is.
Nope.
They've not said who it is, which would normally mean that there is a reason they haven't said it, which would normally mean that they're playing a show within some sort of area of Austin, and that's why they can't announce it till after the show.
That's good.
That's normally why, if you work in the music industry or any entertainment industry, you have radius clauses and things like that, so they can't announce a free show before they play a paid show because people are just not going to buy tickets. So that does then put George Strait back in the conversation, because Kyle Field would be paid, and we might be in the radius clause of College Station. But it could be a show in Houston, it could be a show in Dallas, it could be a show in San Antonio, or it could be a show at the Moody Center. I'll throw you one name who's going to play the Moody Center before June 30th. Megan Thee Stallion. She is someone who's playing.
She's technically global.
I mean, I don't know.
Now who I'd expect that.
When I was looking at who's playing the Moody Center to see possibly who it could be. So Justin Timberlake fell into that. Justin Timberlake could technically be in there, but they could have announced it by now, I believe. I did like the suggestion there on YouTube, where our YouTube stream is, from Doogie. It was Post Malone. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one.
That is a good one. That's a good one. I like that. He does represent the state too. So there's a connection to the state. I like that. That's not bad. Post Malone's not bad. And Post Malone he's edgy enough, but then not too edgy for Texas. No, Texas can't go too edgy with this thing. You know what I mean? But he's edgy enough for the young people, for the young folks out there. And you said they might steer toward younger.
I would assume you're going to steer towards younger.
It's a nighttime concert. They might steer toward a younger demo, and Post Malone would be that. I like that. Post Malone's a good one. Megan Thee Stallion's a good one. That would be unexpected for me, because
it would be unexpected. It's
kind of raunchy, and I don't know if they want to get raunchy.
It would be unexpected for me as well.
Yeah,
but she's in Houston. She's Houston, right?
No, she's H-Town. Yeah. No, she's Texas. I'm saying
so. She's in the state.
Yeah,
and the main reason I wouldn't think of her, except that I know she's playing the Moody Center.
No, it makes sense though.
And so anyone who's playing because of that radius,
we'll throw you a bag to stay one extra night. And
no, I mean, because there's a break in between, but she's not on tour in that spot either. And I believe she's playing Dallas the night before, Dallas a couple nights before, so she's still in Texas. So it's not she's in the state. Yeah, it's within state. It's within a drive. It's not a problem.
Okay, all right. No, it's a good one. I like that. I like that. All right, so that is the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Go check it out. We'll have that posted for you. Also, we'll get to some NBA discussion here. The Mavs with an old biblical style butt whipping they received last night to the Celtics. We'll get to breaking that down. We'll also talk about a new NCAA approved measure that will bring and generate more revenue for these programs. And also, yes, it will affect Campbell Williams Field at DKR. So we'll talk about that coming up. But let's get informed, educated, and let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball finished an amazing season, coming up just short against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series Finals yesterday, 8-4. Texas will now look forward to adding to an already strong roster that had entered the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed while celebrating all of their success from the season. In the NBA, the Celtics took game 1 of the finals in commanding fashion, going on a big run to end the first quarter up 37-20 before ending the half up 63-42. The Mavs fought back in the third, cutting the lead to 8 before a 14-0 Celtics run that proved too much for the Dallas. The Mavs will try to regroup and solve their problems on offense before Game 2 on Sunday. In Major League Baseball, the Astros begin their series with the Angels tonight, sending Framber Valdez to the mound in a game where they hope to have Tucker and Bregman return to the lineup. And the Rangers take on the Giants with Michael Lorenzen getting the start while they wait to see how Corey Seager's hamstring is feeling before they decide the severity of the injury. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those as always. Okay, before we get to the NBA Finals here, I do got to make a correction. I said from the 17th to the 20th, December 17th to the 20th, you would only have 7 days without football. I was saying there's 9. There's still some bowl games that have been announced, but in between the bowl games, college football playoff schedule, and the NFL schedule, in that from the 17th of December to the 20th of January, you have 9 days without football. So I apologize. 9 out of the 35. Still pretty damn good. That's still pretty damn good. Still, I think the best stretch of football we've had probably in the history of the game, college and pro being considered. All right, so let's get to the NBA playoffs here and talk about what the Mavs need to do to bounce back. And they usually do bounce back, by the way. They had a very embarrassing loss game 1 to the Clippers. They had a very underwhelming performance in game 1 versus Oklahoma City, and they were very resilient and they bounced back. A 107-89 loss to Boston, though. It looked very different. I mean, Boston led by as many as 29 points in the first half. Dallas did cut it to 8 at one point in the third quarter. Boston answered, and then the game was never close again. The big story early on, and this is right after actually the Mavs had a lead. I think it was the last lead the Mavs had in the game. In the first quarter, they put in Kristaps Porzingis with there's probably 7 minutes left. Something like that in the first quarter, and then he goes off. 11 points, has 3 blocks in his first 7 minutes of play. Boston went on a 17-5 run within that last 5 minutes of the first quarter, and most of it was with KP's extraordinary performance. He was 4-5, had 3 rebounds, had multiple blocks in that time span, and really that was the run that started the momentum. They're just kind of the snowball of momentum that the Celtics really much rode that until the third quarter. And honestly, I'm not sure if it was the Mavs that really changed some things and really played with more intensity defensively, which you mentioned, Patrick, or was the fact that the Boston Celtics, every game where they get up big, they do seem to get distracted for a period. And it just happens that they play with their food a lot. And maybe that was one of those periods in the third quarter where they probably could have stepped on the throat, but they allowed the Mavs to get back in it, and then once again pulled away on a 14-0 run, and it was never within doubt after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a couple factors when they pulled back, but you wanted to see a little bit of fight come out of them that the Mavs didn't come out in that second half and accept defeat that easily, that they were going to play tough. And, they did bring a little bit more energy, got some better rebounding, and fought back in that second half. The problem was, they just didn't have any help because a big part of that run was Luka Doncic again. Luka was, got hot and he went. But if you look at around the rest of the roster, PJ Washington had an okay game. He ends up with 14 points, but he doesn't hit a 3 in the game. Derek Jones hits that big 3 early, like really early in the game. He hits a 3 that you feel, okay, if he's hitting his threes, they can go. He takes one more, doesn't hit it. Kyrie Irving goes 0 for 5 for 3, and they just don't even really get a ton of threes up. They shoot 27, but no one really got a bunch up like they normally do for the Mavs. And it just felt like at a certain point they started to get further and further away from what they wanted to do and fell into what Boston wanted them to do. And Boston was funneling things to Porzingis when he was in the game, and they were collapsing on everyone who was driving. Basically, the way that they were trying to stop those back cuts was everyone collapse, so you can't do that little pull-up that Luka and Kyrie like to do where they stop about 5 feet from the basket and make a big man make a decision. They were able to let Porzingis or Horford or whoever it was stand back by the bit rim and have 2 other guys, have his defender and another defender come over, and then it would be 3-on-1, and you don't really get that. You don't get the open cut anymore. And so they were able to push that. But when those happen, you have to be able to get the ball back out. Those are plays where you want to be hitting open 3-point shooters. Boston played where normally when you look at that, you look baseline. So Dallas is going to have to look better at how to get the ball back out to not the baseline, because it's where your eyes are when you're driving in. It's hard to look back behind you when you're cutting to the basket to know where guys are. So that's why you didn't see those passes much. It really messed up what the Mavs wanted to do. Boston knew what they did, stayed in those lanes, was able to collapse on them. They got to figure that out, but you can make those adjustments going into game 2. In the grand scheme of things, there are positives. There was that you were able to fight back and bring it to single digits and understand that if you can keep that energy up, you can make this a game where you can get it into clutch time and bring it into single digits in a point in the fourth quarter. That's where you want to be. And you can say you held Jason Tatum pretty well. 16 points on 16 shots. That's not bad. It would be one thing if Jason Tatum didn't shoot, but he took more shots than anybody else on the Celtics. So that means that he was trying to score and didn't have a ton of success doing it. That gives you some positive energy going forward, especially for PJ Washington. He only ends up with 3 fouls. Derek Lively's going to have to learn to play a little bit better with playing with fouls and understanding that they're going to go right at him. That was clearly a plan of theirs, to go right into his chest. They kept doing, the same thing the Mavs like to do, which is set screens to switch onto the guys you want to get. And Luka did a good job on Tatum when they'd switch Tatum they'd switch basically to where they get the matchup they wanted of Tatum and Luka defending Tatum. And they were able to switch that a few times, and Luka did a good enough job of staying in front of him. He's not able to contest a shot a bunch, but if you're able to stay in front of him, it's going to throw Tatum off where he thinks he's basically going to be able to make a quick move and get straight to the rim. But it's also going to tire Luka out. And we saw that a little bit in the fourth quarter, but the game was pretty much decided by then anyway. But we saw what Luka normally would have been doing later in the game when he just got really, really hot. He pulled that bag out in, the third quarter to get him back in the game, and no one else really came with him. There was a couple travels, which you never see, and then a couple of foul calls right after that. And it just felt like, the Mavs, who had gotten in the right headspace in the locker room, they had gotten themselves in there. The couple calls going the wrong way, the crowd getting right back into it, and it just knocked them right back out of the right headspace, and then it was over.
Yeah, no, it was and it was a good game plan by Boston. It's a simple one. They just decided, we're going to play Luka straight up. We're going to make life hell on all of the supporting cast members. They're going to have to make tough shots, high degree of difficulty, contested shots. They have to take contested shots and make contested shots.
Yeah.
And they just didn't do enough of that. And I think, Luka, you said basically they turned Luka into hero ball Luka.
Yeah.
And that makes Luka inefficient because they cut off passing lanes, did a great job of smothering the perimeter at certain areas you brought up. They basically let the Mavs have the shots in places where they're uncomfortable, where they're inefficient, and then they try to suffocate them where they're most efficient, especially those corner threes that we talked about yesterday. But I thought it was a good game plan. Luka had 1 assist. So they turned Luka into hero ball Luka. It was 12 of 26, which, I mean, it wasn't terrible from the field. And Luka got his with 30 points, but nobody else was able to get theirs. And ultimately, what we talked about yesterday, they have a better chance of letting Luka get his, because who can stop Luka? Nobody can stop Luka. You got a better chance at neutralizing Kyrie Irving because of the history that some of your perimeter defenders have with him, like Derek White and Drew Holiday. Also, mentally, your crowd's going to help you get in his head. They booed him mercilessly every time he touched the ball. And I'm not saying that was the reason he was off, but he was off, so it did work. They took away the supporting cast. I mean, Pat, they had 9 assists on 35 field goals. 9.
No,
that's
crazy. That's a crazy stat.
What?
Yeah, that Luka had 1, Kyrie had 2. You just can't have that kind of game. And I mean, and then you throw in the assist to turnover ratio that Luka Doncic has 4 turnovers, Kyrie has 3. I mean, wow. I mean, that's just not going to look good in any situation. You don't want to have that. I mean, again, you want to talk about what they did with Tatum. Tatum had 6 turnovers in the game, so they were able to get him to turn the ball over a little bit. They're defensively at points. They played a good defensive game. 107 is not a huge number for the Celtics. This team goes on huge runs and puts up a lot of points. They held them to 107. I know that doesn't sound great, but what I said yesterday was the Mavs need to be around like 105 to 110 to win games.
That's what you said. Yeah,
and if they scored 110 in this game, they win. Now, we can say there was also garbage time at the end, so they probably could have put up 115 if they let the starters in. But if we just saying if they score 110 in this game, they win the game. You can't score under 100. You're not going to win any of these games in this series. But you have to be able to play a little bit better defense. You want to try and play a little bit better, but that wasn't the main problem. The problem was, when you say 9 assists, this offense was completely set on guys creating their own shots and hitting them. And there's only 2 guys on that roster who can do that. And one of them was having a really bad game.
Yep. That's exactly right. And that's all they need. All they need is one of the dynamic duo to be off.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we talked about that yesterday. All they needed was one to be off, and Kyrie was the one that was off. And then the whole entire offense looked discombobulated. There was no flow to it.
Yeah.
There was no the energy of the offense was off. They couldn't make 3-point shots. What were they, 7 of 27 from 3-point range? So they'll have to figure out something, and they gotta figure out a way to get Kyrie involved early and to get him in his groove early. I'm with you. You talked about that game 6 against the Minnesota. Is that game 6 against Minnesota? Where they Kyrie went off in the first half. What game was that?
In the first half, it was game 1.
Game 1 went off. Okay.
So game one was when game 1 when he came
went off in the first half. Well, then that's probably what they want to try to do, because they can't afford to have Kyrie have a slow start. Luka can have a slow start. I trust Luka to find his groove. Kyrie can't have a slow start though, and not against this. Not on the road.
No.
Maybe at home they can do that, but on the road in Boston, he needs to start fast. Well, and they need him confident, because whether he wants to admit it or not, he's also playing against the crowd.
Yeah,
more so than anybody else too.
No, he's playing against the crowd. He's playing against his own mental block that he has in that town, and that he has against his Celtics team and Drew Holiday and Derek White. That he has a mental block. When he dribbled off his foot, this is Kyrie. Like I get that it's overstating it, but it's Kyrie Irving's one of the best ball handlers in NBA history. Yep. And he dribbled off his foot because he's playing against a guy that he's just used to struggling against. And so he's so in his own head at a point of I'm playing bad, I have to play better. I'm playing bad, I have to play better, that it ends up just compiling on itself. And that's what I think the Mavs kind of got into that. There were so many hero ball threes shot in this game that will just kill you, that you just dribble down the court and shoot a 3 real quick. And well, if I hit this, that'll silence the crowd, but you miss it. And it's, again, at best a 20% shot. Yeah. Like, it's better for Luka probably, but even he shouldn't be doing it if he's missing them. And you say, so it's at best a 20% shot, which means 4 out of 5 times that ball's going the other way. And the defense is not set and you're running back. 4 out of 5 times is not a good odds in basketball to do anything. And they continue to push that. They continue to go at that. They continue to drive the ball right at Porzingis. We get triple teamed and still go up with it, and not create contact with Porzingis, not be able to, get a foul or anything else. They just would go in and get blocked, stuffed easily, and they'd show ball. Which, I mean, if you're going to go up against a guy like that, hide the ball a little bit. Hide the ball a little bit and try and go around him and get body contact as he searches for the ball. But if you just put it up there for someone to go find, they're going to go, they can block it. So don't show them the ball until the last second and try and go around and move the ball around. That's how you get hit on your arm and things like that. You may not make the shot, but you either get a more open shot because he'll just go straight up and down, or he'll hit you on the way and you can at least go into the next game and say that's a foul. I mean, that was the other part. Is I think the physicality of the series, they figured it out more in the second half, but in the first half there was times where the Celtics were just bumping them, and there was one that was egregious that was not called, but of a push off in the back that was so blatant that the four of us that were watching the game together all went, "Oh, that's because you see the fully extended hands pushing a body out of the way." He's like, "Come on, man, you got to call that one." But I think you saw there was a play where Luka gets the rebound and basically Derek White hip checks him to get the ball away from him because you're just not expecting it. You're not expecting to get hip checked. And he hip checks him, gets the ball away, and Kyrie comes on the other side and hip checks Derek White and gets the ball and takes it back up the court. You're like, that's what you need to do. If they're not calling it, just turnabout's fair play. And so if they're going to bump you and try and get the ball out from you that way and try and get steals of bumping you and stuff, bump them right back. And until they call it, and when they do call it, you got to call it both ways. And they'll start to call it both ways a little bit more. But, you have to be able to understand what that physicality of the finals is going to be, and that the Celtics are a good team that knows how to do those types of things of bumping you, putting hips into you with their arms up to make it look like it's not as much contact, or, to go for ball, but use your legs into, kind of push someone's leg in and knock them off balance. Just little tricks of the trade. They know how to do a lot of those things.
Oh yeah.
And so you just have to be more conscious of that. It's going to be that type of series that I think they kind of went in against Boston knowing that there'd be physicality. But I think they thought, well, they're going to be a finesse because they're a more talented team. They'll finesse us to death. And it's like, no, because they have, that's why they're so good, is they have both sides of it. Yeah, and so while Jason Tatum's probably not going to physicality you out of it, Jaylen Brown will. He'll go right at you.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. And those hip checks and elbows, man, they add up throughout a series, toward the end of the series, especially for a team that doesn't have the depth that Boston does too. And that's something that was pretty evident, the experience factor, right? We talked about that with the Mavs, that they had the experience advantage over Minnesota, the experience advantage over Oklahoma City. And I think that was pretty evident in those series, especially the way they bounced back and they handled themselves. And I think it was pretty obvious, at least in game one, that the Celtics had been here before, and that was something too, just the way they handled themselves. The physicality you talked about. It looks like the Celtics have learned from their last shortcoming in the finals, and coming up short, I should say, in the finals, and learn from last year too. This looks like a veteran squad. They're deep, and man, they played. Like I said, they didn't even really need their superstars to have great games, because they were able to go on that. We talked about those runs they go on. They basically had two of those in the games. They had one to answer the third quarter comeback by the Mavs. They had a 14-0 run that put the game out of reach. And then they had that run early on in the game. Basically, they outscored the Mavs for the 44-16, I believe it was, to make it 58-29 in the second quarter. They outscored basically that first half for like 44-16.
No, I mean,
they pulled away.
The Mavs didn't score over 25 points in a quarter. So they don't need to have anybody go off. If you can't score over 25 in a quarter, in any quarter in the entire game, you didn't score over 25 points.
Yeah, you're done, son.
Yeah, that's so you don't need to be the offensive powerhouse if you're playing defense at that level and you're stopping them and just getting them to play in your hand. That's so much of what defense is not the one-on-one matchups. It's getting them to do what you want them to do and getting them to drive into triple coverage, getting them to look at the corner where there's a guy standing in between, the dribbler and where the other player is, and the player's just standing there. If you can't have your own teammate in the corner with a guy in between and realizing you're getting stuck and not moving at all, if you have to move and try and get open, those are things. They'll watch plenty of game film. Jason Kidd probably didn't sleep much last night, cutting up that game film and walking in to show those guys today everything of, I can't believe you did this. The Josh Green, I'm going to go up on a 3-on-1 against a guy who's blocked everything that's come near the rim and has hit every shot on me because I'm too short against him. And I'm going to go try and dunk on his face and get blocked again.
Yeah.
Those plays like that. Like, what were you thinking? Just pull it out. Like, we just got to be smarter.
I know. I don't even know. Do you show that to him if you're Jason Kidd?
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if I don't know if I even show him the bad stuff. I think we might just go all positive. I might flip the script.
Well, because you need to show them which
I
guys.
can tell them what they did wrong. They're professionals. They'll know.
No, but I don't know
if I want them to relive it during the finals.
I think
considering how much of an underdog they are.
I think you want to show them the guys that were open that you missed.
Yes, I'm saying exactly. I want to point out the positives more, and that's a positive. Like, hey man, this guy's open, and either you missed it, or I would try to steer toward the positive.
Or you're standing in a space, you need to move to the right space. Those types of things are just like, you can't stand around right now because they know where you're supposed to be. They've studied our game film. They know what we do, so we have to change what we do.
I show them the third quarter,
yeah,
and I'd show them the beginning of the first quarter. And I'd probably leave out everything else, and then I just make notes, little cut ups. Well, and
that's
notes.
The thing
like
is,
this guy was open. This guy was open.
I'm not going to show him Kristaps Porzingis hitting shots where you go, all right, we know that. I don't need to show him dominating anybody that way. There's stuff I don't need to show him because you're not that we just need to play better defense on. But look, he did what he did. He went off in the first half. I'm not worried about showing those clips, but clips of a guy standing in the corner with his arms out for a pass where he can't see the guy with the ball, expecting a pass through 3 defenders.
Yeah.
It's just not that stuff is where it's show and go, what were you expecting to happen on this play?
Great point. Yeah. And this is also the worst game I've seen from Derek Lively in the playoffs.
Yeah. He just, he just didn't get to play much.
Yeah. I mean, foul trouble. He had 5 fouls, 5 rebounds.
Jaylen Brown just went in his chest again and again. They just went in his chest.
Yeah, and they knew he was a rookie, and they
were
wanted to see how he respond, and he didn't handle it well. He played like a rookie. He has not played like a rookie these postseasons. So here's another guy that's got to step up for him. They need a lot of different players to step up. They're going to need to make some adjustments. But remember, this went down for the Mavs in Game 1 versus the Clippers, and they had something. They had an underwhelming, disappointing performance in Game 1 versus OKC. They'll bounce back, but you don't want to go down 0-2. To this Celtics team. So you need to try to steal this game too. You really do. If there was a game where you need to try to kind of go all in to steal one, this would be it. Because going back to Dallas down 0-2, not saying they can't make it a series and win one in Dallas and make it 2-1, just psychologically would feel different. Because if you go down 0-2, you take the chance of them winning game 1. I'm sorry, game 3 in Dallas, and oh man, then that's a disaster. Going down 0-3. I mean, game, set, and match. It's done. And so that's why I think you got to try to steal this game too. So we'll see. We'll preview that and talk about it. We got some time. And of course, that'll be happening this weekend. But we'll get back to that. But first, let's go behind the Burn Noise Curtain next segment. And we'll talk some Texas football. There's a Pro Football Focus ranking of the best O-lines in college football. The Longhorns are rated pretty high on that list. We'll talk about it. Also, we'll talk about the wide receiver market. We talked about it at the NFL level, but even at the college level, seems like Texas is right now kind of mimicking what's happening at the NFL level in terms of the value of the wide receiver market in their latest recruiting class. We'll talk about that too. Also, we'll get to another discussion about the field, the logos, logo sponsorships on college football fields. Apparently, it has been approved by the NCAA. We'll see, potentially discuss what corporations or companies could end up sponsoring Campbell Williams Field at DKR. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to talk some Texas football here. There was a announcement yesterday. I saw Brett McMurphy with it. I believe Ross Dellinger had the story as well. College football fields now will be allowed to have corporate sponsorship. That was approved and announced yesterday. The NCAA playing rules panel passed legislation to permit schools to display corporate logos on football fields. It says that here an advertisement centered on the 50 and no more than 2 smaller flanking advertisements elsewhere on the field. This can be done on a game by game basis or on the entire season. So you can have like a special game sponsor for a special game, where they can do it season sponsor. Something tells me Texas will definitely have a season sponsor. Who will it be? That's interesting. I mean, Texas has the luxury of being picky. They can pick somebody they think has a that's compatible with their brand, or somebody they think would be a good brand partnership with. Or they just take the highest bidder. I'm sure Texas will have more than a few companies champion at the bit to be the Campbell Williams, field sponsor. So this is, by the way, this is just beginning. We talked about this earlier this week, or was it late last week, that they were going to jersey sponsorships are also being discussed. We talked about naming rights for the field and for stadiums. I think all of them will be a reality in like 2 years. They just need ways to generate revenue, and naming rights that's just easy money. I mean, it's just too easy.
No, exactly.
Somebody will pay you $10-20 million, just to put their name somewhere on your building or field.
It's the stuff of, we're going to ease you into it, and so we'll put it on the field first. And then it'll be a corporate sponsorship of stadiums, and then it'll be on everybody's jersey, and that'll all be within 2 years. But it'll be slowly enough that you'll just go like, oh, I don't like that very much, and then it'll be the next thing you go, well, I don't like that very much, but I don't care about that one because that one's already there. They can have it on the field, but don't put it on the jerseys. And then they'll put it on the jerseys and go, well, it's on the jerseys, but don't put it on the helmets.
Exactly. You're right. They gotta slowly desensitize you to it. They do it all at one time. People be complaining and upset. I'm not watching it because of that. And it's like, no, they'll just do it slowly. But you look up in 3 years, you'll be like, damn, looks like NASCAR out there. Looks like soccer out there. I mean, and I'll say that it's going to happen in all your sports too. By the way, the NFL's going to be there in a while too. I mean, it's just too easy. Like the money, it's just too easy of a paycheck. It's like mailbox money for the NFL or for any of these sports leagues. So that's happening. We don't know exactly. I guarantee you, for Texas, I'd say you'll have a field sponsor in the next 2 weeks. I'll say you probably have one in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
they probably got.
Yeah, look, you might see it announced on June 30th at the party.
You know what? They may work. That's a good point. They may wait to the SEC celebration. They might. So I would say by the end of the month. Then there you go.
Show you or announce it then, or show it. Yeah, but I could believe that would be when they put it out there. We saw how quickly they put the SEC logo on the field.
Oh, it didn't take any long. They're trying to move past. They're trying to move on from the Big 12 as soon as possible. As soon as possible. So there you go. That is the news that broke yesterday about sponsorships. But like I said, that is just the beginning. You're going to see more and more of that. Also, I saw this from the recruiting world. I saw On3 is the one that had it. They had their top uncommitted wide receivers On3 in their industry rankings. Decorian Moore is considered the best wide receiver in the nation. Matter of fact, my man Jerry Hamilton, who I trust over at On Texas Football, he's a recruiting guru. This guy, honestly, I credit him with discovering me. He's the first one that ranked me on any recruiting board. He says Decorian Moore is not only the best wide receiver in the country, he puts him in the same rarefied air as recruits like Derek Johnson and Adrian Peterson, is what he told me. And I was like, man, those are really lofty expectations to put on a recruit. So that's what kind of expectations and skill and upside you may have with Decorian Moore. But anyway, they went through the top uncommitted wide receivers, and 3 of the top 4, or at least these are all 5-star receivers, so I don't know if they ranked them or whatever, but 3 of the 4 on this list are favored, projected, and predicted to be going to Texas. Decorian Moore, 89%. Khalil Lockett, 78%, and then Jamie French, 49%. Jamie French, also, they got Ohio State in here at 22%. That's his second team. in his final 4 or final 3. A&M is the second team in the running for Khalil Lockett, or at least based on these projections at 5%. But they got Decordian Moore at 89% favoring the Longhorns. LSU at 4%. So if these projections are right, you can get 3 5-stars in the same class. I do think it is, and maybe it's just coincidental, but maybe just serendipitous that Texas is also now starting to value the wide receiver position. Just like I said, the NFL now has shown you through its through the draft capital and through now the new salary explosions for wide receiver. It's the second most important position in football behind quarterback. And I don't know, it looks like Sark is kind of echoing the very same sentiment, or at least in his talent acquisition cycle, that he also has a similar belief that, oh no, we got to start upping our wide receiver recruitment. Look at the transfer portal, had 3 in the transfer portal recently. Now you're going to bring in 3 5-star receivers in the same recruiting class. Texas has done that before. Remember, I pointed out that Texas did that in 2000 when I was on the 40 acres, but you just really don't see that in the NIL world. It will be quite the accomplishment for Texas to be able to do that. And so right now they're in the league. But I point out that to me, Sark is a guy that not only champions the NFL's methods, but I think he copies them a lot of the times. And he talks about how even at the SEC spring meetings, how they need to look to the NFL to help solve some of these problems about roster limits and about injury reports and stuff like that. He also has hired himself a general manager and talks about how transfer portal is free agency for Texas, and traditional recruiting is more like the draft for Texas. So he makes a lot of analogies, and he makes a lot of connections to the NFL, even with his scheme and the way that he evolves his scheme, adopts new concepts and ideas, and brings variety to his offensive ideology. He does it by watching the NFL. So he knows the trends are going on in the NFL and still pays attention to them. And maybe he's paid attention to the trend that, no, man, wide receiver is more important now than it's ever been. And it's more important now than every position in football except quarterback. And for Texas, they got the quarterback, certainly. And if they end up getting 3 5-star receivers, it would say that maybe the emphasis for Texas has changed a little bit. All right, so there you go. By the way, I remember I told you guys only 5 times in modern recruiting that I've seen any program get 3 5-star players at the same position in the same class. Texas did in 2000 with those 3 wide receivers. Tennessee did it in 01 with 3 running backs. Crazy. USC did it in 2006 with 3 running backs. 2022, Bama did it with 3 D linemen, and A&M did it in 2023 with 3 D linemen. So it doesn't happen a lot, but Texas may be doing it at wide receiver. Nobody's done it at wide receiver, by the way. It's been done at D-line, been done at running back, been done, except for Texas, obviously doing it in 2000. That was the only time it was done at wide receiver, so now Texas is about to be doing it again at the wide receiver position, coming full circle. All right, let's hit the Pro Football Focus rankings for offensive line. Saw these yesterday, and I wanted to get into them. So the Longhorns on this list of the best offensive lines in college football is by Max Chadwick. He works for Pro Football Focus. He's got Texas 4th on this list, behind Alabama at number 1, behind Georgia at number 2, behind LSU at number 3, and ahead of Oregon at number 5. The full breakdown for Max Chadwick here, talking about the Longhorns, is Texas returns 4 starters on his offensive line, headlined by junior left tackle Kelvin Banks. It also says that Kelvin Banks was considered the 6th most valuable tackle in the nation in 2023 by their wins above average metric. They say he's the 2nd best returning tackle in college football. The Longhorns also bring back the entirety of their interior in Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, and DJ Campbell. Cameron Williams will likely fill in at right tackle after not allowing a single pressure on 49 pass blocking snaps as a sophomore. The interior interior O-line for Texas will be tested because they're probably going to face the 3 top D tackles in the country. When you look at it, Mason Graham is the D tackle for Michigan. He's considered the best D tackle in this draft class. Also top 4 or 5 is Kenneth Grant, also on that same D line with Mason Graham. They're the best D tackle combo. Basically, look at them like Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were last year for Texas. That's what they are for Michigan right now. That's how good they are, and that's how deep they are at D tackle. That's going to be a hell of a test for the Texas interior O-line. Also, they'll face Deion Walker. Deion Walker is considered a top 4 D tackle coming out in this draft class too. Fringe first round guy. He's a Kentucky interior D lineman. He's a monster, 6'6", 350. He is a humongous human being, mammoth. And he's a force. So that's also somebody that so basically those are kind of your top, those are 3 of your top 5 D tackles in the country. And Texas will face them. So that interior O-line, it will be tested, and they should be up to the task. They'll also face, some of the best edge rushers in the country too. I mean, you're gonna start looking at the best edge rushers in the SEC. The A&M kid is Nick Scourton, I believe is his name. He's a really good edge defender. He's a really good player. Michigan will have a couple of guys who are really good off the edge too. But I know Nick Scourton is a good player from A&M off the edge. They'll face Arkansas has 2 of them. Remember that kid Landon Jackson? And they got another kid. I'll mispronounce his name, Anton Jonkaj. I'm sure I'm screwing that up, but they have 2 edges. They may have 2 of the better ones in the SEC. Mikael Williams from Georgia. He's another really good one that they'll see. Georgia will be loaded as always. And then Oklahoma actually has a couple. Caden Woolard and Ethan Downs are 2 really good edge players that will be returning for them. A&M has another kid, Shamar Turner. So that Texas that O-line will be challenged. I think the best D lines they're going to play are going to be Michigan. Will probably be Georgia somewhere after that, and actually A&M. A&M will probably have a good one. It's a Kentucky. It's probably somewhere maybe the 4th best D line they'll play, but it will be a good test early on that Michigan game. We'll know everything we need to know about the Texas O-line after the Michigan game. You will. If they can hold up in that Michigan game against that D line, they'll be just fine in the SEC. If they can't, maybe there might be some issues matching up in the SEC. Also, so we're talking about O-line just real quick. Remember yesterday I was bringing up the 6 O-line package, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and how they're going to use it. I did find something interesting when I was doing research about that 6 O-line package. Remember I told you guys that scouts, they want to see Quinn Ewers in straight dropbacks more because Sark's offense is such a deception-based passing game, 50% play action pass, about 15% screen rate, about 10% RPO throws. I mean, you got a lot of deception. You're talking about basically a third of Quinn Ewers dropbacks being traditional standard just dropbacks without any deceptive tactics accompanied with them. Well, in the 6 O-line package, something I found from 2023, like I said, I'm going to do some more deep dives and probably go try to watch these snaps. You go look at the straight drop back pass rate for Quinn. It actually increases to above 50% in 2023 in the 6 O-line package. So I think Sark actually has recognized that, and this is maybe one of the reasons you're going to see more of that Big 11, Big 12, 6 O-line package, because it allows Sark to insulate the pass protection and then you straight drop back without any deceptive tactics like play action pass or RPOs, and you still use the screens. But I tracked all of his straight dropbacks, and you're talking about over 50% of their passes in that 6 O-line package actually were straight dropbacks. Usually, like I said, he's close to a third of his pass attempts being that. So that's a big increase. I think that's Sark. Because something else that dropped off were the deep balls. He threw a lot of deep balls out of that 6 O-line package in 2022. Makes sense. More protection, more offensive linemen on the field. They curtailed that, like all the deep balls in the offense, in 2023. And the deep ball became those deep curl routes or those deep over routes. Still routes that take a long time to develop, but it's not traditional deep ball, which, as we pointed out earlier in the show, you were just bad at converting. You were inefficient on deep balls. So Sark turned them into kind of intermediate to deep passes, still with the same result, which is to take the top off the defense and make the defense have to respect the vertical threat, even though we're not talking about your usual 9 routes down the field. What you need is just more time for Quinn in the straight drop back and you really couldn't accomplish that as much in 11 personnel or 12 personnel because you just didn't have the pass protection, but you do when you have an extra offensive lineman out there. So that's what I noticed. More straight drop back for Quinn in the 6-0 line package. Scouts want to see more of him with straight drop backs, being able to dissect the defense without deception tactics or deceptive tactics. And you're going to see more of the 6-0 line package because that's when it starts comfortable with Quinn in straight drop back mode. All right, random little nugget there about the offensive line. We come back. We got off the record on the other side. This story, well, I don't know if it's even a story. This interview is hilarious. It's a mistaken identity, and it is cringeworthy in the best kind of way. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. They do a great job. I can attest to this. I can testify to it first and foremost because my dental health and dental hygiene have never been in better shape. And it's because of Dr. Greg Eckert and his great team. I initially, the first time I actually went to Dr. U's office, first time I walked in, there was actually a lady there and she was crying. I thought to myself, see, this is why I don't come to the dentist. It turns out she was actually crying tears of joy. She had been shown her brand new smile that Dr. Eckert and his team had been responsible for. And when she saw herself in the mirror, she was brought to tears. Yes, tears of joy at the dentist office. That's what you get from Dr. U. And you can be part of that too. You can get that same joy. You can get that same satisfaction because Dr. U can also give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. You'll spend no time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures until they can complete your permanent smile. You're going to smile again, smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So we're talking about a lifelike permanent solution. So you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, or you've got dentures already, or they're telling you that you're about to have dentures. Don't freak out. Just call Dr. U and learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose, but so much to gain because a confident smile can truly change your life. And Dr. U wants to change your life for the better. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. But even if you just got to go for a normal routine cleaning or a checkup, Dr. U and his team can handle that as well. As a matter of fact, I just went there for a cleaning. I got feeling, matter of fact, I fell asleep in the chair. That's how relaxed I was at Dr. U's office. So it could be any general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures, porcelain, crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're being the best quality dental care available. That's what you get from Dr. U and his team. 512-345-3166 or visit drueckert.com, drueckert.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off of the record here. So, man, this is terribly embarrassing for everybody involved, by the way. But apparently, there was a pro-am golf tournament happening, and some celebrities were playing in this golf tournament. And one of the celebrities that I think was playing or that was expected to play was Vince Young.
Yes.
Our own, the great Vince Young, who we love, we hold dear. So I assume that they thought they were interviewing Vince Young, and that's when this happened.
Vince Young playing this week. He is down with Bourne.
Played 6 seasons in the NFL, arguably one of the best NCAA quarterbacks of all time at Texas. Picked up golf about 4 years ago. What's the biggest shift you make going from the ultimate team sport to now the ultimate individual sport?
Now, I apologize. You have the wrong person. I'm Everett Sands over Citadel, which I'm a football coach. But the thing is, the great thing about golf is that I'm not only competing against myself, but I'm competing against everybody else.
This is your first pro-am ever played, and what's the best part of being out here?
Well, being out here is a great thing, and have an opportunity to play with some professional golfers is a intimidating thing, but also a great thing.
Good luck this weekend.
Hey, I appreciate it.
No! Oh man,
That is.
That is so
painful.
cringeworthy.
Oh, it's painful.
Whose fault is that? There's a producer back. Somebody should. There should have been checks and balances. Somebody should have been like, "That's not Vince Young. That's not Vince Young." But I guess they didn't know how Vince Young looks because he looks nothing like Vince Young, by the way.
No, he did not. He did not look like Vince Young. He also didn't look like he was like 6'5".
Yes.
Did not look tall enough.
He's like 2 inches taller than her, and it's like, well, how tall is she?
Like, did not anything about it. I would not.
It's not good.
No, it was. Yeah. That is the worst. Is she had to ask another question.
Yes.
Like, first of all, the
guy
guy
just shut it down.
The guy tried to do the best he could there, where he was like, "I'm not Vince Young, but I'm still going to be polite about this."
Yes, he was very polite. He was.
I'm not going to go, "Hey, that's not me. This is
see ya.
See ya. This is
I'm
awful."
offended by it.
Yeah, I'm offended. No, he didn't. He said no. But I'll answer the question as if you meant to ask it to me.
He's like, but the thing about being out here is like, well, good for you, Everett Sands.
That's good. What's funny is you could hear she was a little bit nervous in her first question because she kind of stumbled over NCAA. She was a little nervous, but yeah, I get it. She got there working it. She's doing fun. And then the second question, you can hear in her voice just how terrified she is at that point.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah, I feel bad for her because it's not her fault. Somebody told her. Yeah. That's Vince Young. Go get him, because they also told the crew. Yeah, that crew, they didn't see Vince Young. Trust me, I did. Do
you think there was a cameraman behind me who was like, "Hey, that's not Vince," but I'm not saying nothing.
Somebody had to know. Somebody who had access and somebody who observed it was like, "I'm not sure if that's Vince Young, but I ain't saying nothing." Man, because what if I'm wrong?
I learned my lesson when I was young, and I was working a show, and it was like I think I was still in high school. And was working a show, and it was a big show at Auditorium Shores, and I was backstage, and I was working for one of the bands that was on the bill, and I'm sitting back, and I'm having this conversation, and I don't know what I said to this guy, but I was 17, so I could have said some dumb stuff, and and I'm just talking to this guy, no idea who he is, like 2 or 3 guys, and then they're like, the direct support headliner for the National Touring Act, he's like, okay, we got to go, and they go hop on stage. I'm like, oh no, I don't know what I just said, but
that guy's important.
I can believe very well I said, I don't know who this band is, or something to that effect. And while I was talking to the band, and then learned the lesson, it was like, always look up the band before whoever you're playing with, look up who they look like, know what people look like, so you have an idea, so you don't put your foot in your mouth.
That is true. That's a great point. Yeah. And you know what? In the technological age we live in, that's really not an excuse. It is just kind of a Google search away. Like, all right.
No, the thing is,
somebody should have Googled Vince Young.
It's been hard at Texas, like for freshmen or sophomores coming in that you don't really see play very often. And then you're trying to look at pictures of him, but you're like, the hair is not the same, but I think that's the same guy, but the hair is not the same. So I don't know. I don't want to say, I'm just going to back off of it because I can't be sure.
You know what? This is why, some things technology just cannot save you from. A simple introduction hello, my name is.
Yep.
Solves all this.
It does.
As soon as you walk up,
except
hello, how you doing? My name is. Before we get to the interview, so obviously there was no introduction.
No.
There was no introduction. Nobody ever said, hello, my name is.
And
because then you automatically get, oh, my name is.
No.
Ever said, oh, you're not Vince Young. Okay, sorry.
No.
So my point was,
I just
if
go,
there would have been an introduction, I think you could have saved yourself the embarrassment.
What happens when you do that? And then they go, hi. You just go, I was.
I'm talking about before the camera.
I meant that. But she walks up and she goes, hello, I'm so and so from the Golf Network, and then the guy just goes, hi, and he goes, I was really hoping for a name there. Really hoping for an introduction.
That's true, but my you can just ask him.
Yeah,
you literally can just ask him. Who cares? You just met him. It's not like you're trying to suck up to him. It's like, no. Listen, my name is. What is your name? Oh, what would you like to be referred to? Vincent Paul Young or Vince Young? Oh, I'm not Vincent Young. I'm not Vince Young or Vincent Paul Young.
Oh, good. They're cutting to us right now.
Yeah, so I think honestly, I would have been like, you probably should introduce yourself to the people you interview.
Yeah.
From now on, you probably should just walk up to them and go, all right, here's a microphone, answer my question. Probably should go, hey, my name is blank, and your name is, or just say, hey, Vince Young, nice to meet you. I'm not Vince Young. Okay, well, you know what? I apologize. Sorry, glad we got that out of the way. Probably should have been some communication before.
We'll put it this way: if this poor woman stays in the broadcasting world, she's learned a valuable lesson.
That is a valuable Google or introduction. Either one might say
maybe both.
All right.
Try both.
Maybe both. Yes, maybe both. All right, we come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. There's an NIL survey that I want to get into, and a brilliant idea to help save these college football programs who are struggling with the free market. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good. Thank you to you. Make it Ric Flair. Woo! 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that's where my man Patrick plays jams from local bands and artists. Very talented human beings that you got a chance to see live right here in the ATX. Who are jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Megafauna, and they're playing tonight at Hole in the Wall.
I like that. Megafauna?
Megafauna, Fauna.
Megafauna. I like that. All right, there you go. 512 Friday continuing here. So we appreciate Patrick and all of his expertise. We also appreciate him coming up with the topics for the Big Fat Poll today. You got two dose of them babies today. One in a NBA Finals related, the other one related to the SEC celebration happening on the 40 acres at the end of the month. Focus. So Patrick, give the folks the topic for the Big Fat Poll or the Big Fat Polls plural of the day.
Let's go NBA Finals first. It was who will have a better series against their former team, Kristaps Porzingis or Kyrie Irving. We thought that would have been an easy one to pick before Game 1, but Game 1 showed us that Kristaps Porzingis is ready to play some basketball in this series. Had a really good 20 minutes of action in that game, and Kyrie did not play well. So now I'm asking you for the rest of this series, for the series as a whole, who will have a better series against their former team, Kristaps Porzingis or Kyrie Irving? That one's posted up now on the Horn ATX X account at Horn ATX. And we're also asking you on the text line 512-447-3776. The SEC celebration happening June 30th says it will have a global headliner, someone that is a global showman, global headliner, whatever they phrase it, will be playing the show. And so we're asking you who you think it is or who you would book to have that as your pick for who you would have play that. We're asking you. And so we've gotten some different ones. There's some that are more likely than others, but we're just trying to hope that it's not Pitbull.
Just hoping it ain't Pitbull. Why do I feel like we're gonna be disappointed?
I think we're gonna be disappointed.
No matter who it is. We're gonna be disappointed, ain't we? Yeah. It's gonna be Pitbull or like Nelly. And
it could be Nelly. So Nelly,
he's internationally known.
Well,
isn't he from Austin?
He's born in Austin. He's from St. Louis. He's born in Austin.
But born in Austin, yeah.
So he's actually playing the Moody Center like a couple days before, but he may still be on tour then.
It's gonna be Nelly potentially. I bet.
So
Let's
Nelly,
see his tour dates.
Nelly's opening for Janet Jackson on tour right now, I believe.
Okay.
So let's see.
Hopefully he's gone. Hopefully he's busy. I'm happy for Nelly, but I know Nelly could also be in the. Like I said, I think he's performed before. For like I know in Austin, but I want to say, didn't he perform one of the Longhorn City Limits? Was Nelly on one of those?
He was. I know he was at the Big 12 championship game.
Maybe
right?
That's what I'm thinking about. I know there was a Nelly connection somehow in like athletics here, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was. I go over and look at it, but I'm hoping. I like Nelly, but like I said, I feel like we're gonna be disappointed with this global star that's expected at his SEC celebration.
I have to. That's why I'm letting us have some fun with it before that comes up and it's and it happens and then we don't know anymore. And
okay, no, it's like I said, it really is a good question. And you just pointed out that didn't you say that George Straits is like performing for some Aggie event or something like that?
Yes, he is performing. He is doing the show at Kyle Field on June 15th.
See, that's pretty big time, man. Yeah, the Aggies, the Aggies outdoing you when it comes to bringing in star power. Oh yeah, Nelly did perform at Longhorn City Limits in like 2022. So they already got his number, just in case. So it could be Nelly. Don't be disappointed if it's Nelly or Pitbull.
It could be. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, see, don't be sad. It could be Nelly or Pitbull. They are technically global.
They are technically global.
Yeah, technically they are global. Because Nelly like performs over like in Asia a lot of the times. He'll perform like in the Middle East and stuff like that. I'm thinking Nelly's still big over there. So there you go. All right, there you go. So those are the topics for the Big Fat Polls of the day. We'll get to a couple of items here. NIL survey that I want to get to here, and a great idea to help programs, college football programs, to help them really transition into a free market era of college sports. And so we'll get to that too coming up. But first, let's do as we always do every hour. Let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas softball finished an amazing season, coming up just short against Oklahoma in the Women's College World Series Finals yesterday, 8-4. Texas will now look forward to adding to an already strong roster that entered the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed while celebrating all of their success from the season. In the NBA, the Celtics took Game 1 of the finals in commanding fashion, going on a big run to end the first quarter up 37-20 before ending the half up 63-42. The Mavs fought back in the third, cutting the lead to 8 before a 14-0 Celtics run that proved too much for Dallas. The Mavs will try to regroup and solve the problems in their offense before Game 2 on Sunday. In Major League Baseball, the Astros begin their series with the Angels tonight, sending Framber Valdez to the mound in a game where they hope to have Tucker and Bregman return to the lineup. And the Rangers take on the Giants with Michael Lorenzen getting the start, while they will wait to see how Corey Seager's hamstring is feeling before they decide the severity of the injury. And that is your Horn headlines.
Yes, cannot forget we do have a Rangers report that'll be coming up in the 9 o'clock hour as well. So we're squeezing in a lot. So let's get right to it. So there'll be a Rangers report. If we can't get it in this segment, then we'll get the Rangers report coming up next segment. I promise you that. So Rangers fans, stick around. All right. So here is the latest business venture from a company called Open Doors, and this apparently this idea is already gaining traction, or I should say this business model, because they've already, I believe they're now past the idea phase, that they believe this is going to become really popular. So the idea, Open Doors is a company. They've done a great job. I've brought them referenced them on the show several times. They are one of the only companies, and they may be the only company that I know of that's tracking NIL transactions program to program, from the directives perspectives, the directives and collectives. Directives are just basically one sugar daddy. A collective is, a group of either sugar daddies or boosters, donors, or even fans can form their own collective where they can engage in NIL transactions, right? So they track them through that. They track it through players. They track it through agents, because they're agents that are helping coordinate all these deals. And some schools actually work with them as well already in giving them sharing their information about their NIL deals. So they've been tracking NIL deals across the country, NIL transactions across the country from different perspectives, basically from different entities, whether it be schools, agents, directives, collectives. And then they've been putting this into their own database, and they have all the data nationally about the trends and patterns and averages of NIL value across the country, position by position, situation by situation. If a guy's coming out of the transfer portal, guy coming out of high school is a 4-star, guy coming out of high school is a 5-star, so they know the last, 4 or 5 talent acquisition cycles, what a player of this magnitude with this rating at this position is worth at 80 on average at 80 different programs. Like, they can give you that information. And most schools don't have that kind of, I don't think any school has that information. So what they are now willing to do, they have a new service they're coming up with. They call it, they said, I followed them on Twitter. They said, today we're announcing 2 new solutions for the next era of NIL: Open Doors budgets and FMV assessments. I'm assuming the budget is basically them helping teams with their salary cap. I'm assuming that's what it is. I don't know. I haven't looked into the budget, but the FMV is important because this is it's a fair market value. It's a fair market value assessment. So based on kind of what synopsis I just gave you, they can give you the fair market value, of a player, whoever he is. They track all sports, so women's sports. So we're talking about college football, but they can do it for any sport that has had a lot of NIL transactions throughout the years. I don't know if they can do it for, obviously they'll give you the sample size, but I'm sure they can have the same information for any sport. And what they're going to do is help institutions who now have to deal with the free market with revenue sharing, and revenue sharing is also going to change NIL. They have not evaluated these players and these student athletes at certain positions in certain sports. They don't even know what they're worth because they've been trying their best, right, to avoid the free market. We know what players are worth at professional level. There are franchise tag values. There are salaries that we know. We talk about it all the time. Well, CeeDee Lamb's, we can probably almost predict what he's going to make down to 2-3 million easy, because he's going to be slotted behind this guy and ahead of this guy based on the stats and based on precedent. We don't know that in college. No, we have no idea what players are worth. Players are playing games themselves and negotiating with leverage, and they're either negotiating way more possibly than they would get in a given situation based on the desperation of the team that's recruiting them. Or I've heard from coaches, well, players are just lying about deals. They're just inflating numbers. They're just coming in saying, yeah, I got 300,000 on the table. And, you hit a coach up through 6 degrees of separation at the university, say, oh, y'all offering this kid 300,000? No. Yeah, I offered 150,000.
Well, and you also,
you don't know that as a coach.
And you add in these guys that have representation, but they're being represented by someone else who's a buddy of theirs, or who's,
uncle.
An uncle or somebody like that. They, you don't know where it's, they don't really know the game either. So they just think they're a businessman and they're going to go in there and, well, actually, we have an offer for $5.2 million right now from this school. And you're like, really? 5.2? Because what we've been paying people is way less than that. So we'll show you the door. Whoa, maybe we can talk about it. And you're like, so you can see that there's, it's not even that you necessarily have the most reputable, where in the NFL, you have to be an agent. You have to be a certified agent to be able to deal in the NFL. That's not the case in NIL, where you can have people, representing players that aren't a part of this elite group that everybody knows everybody. And, there's at least some level of decorum that has to be there.
Yeah, they actually are trying to, I believe they're advocating to put that in state, and it's in some states' laws, some state NIL laws. They're trying to get in all state NIL laws that you do need to be a certified agent, and you have to have some type of certification. You can't just be representing these players in these potentially $1 million deals. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really interesting that, and if you go look at what is happening now, with these universities, them having to close the gap. I mean, that's all related, right? We talked about the sponsorship story where they can have loud logos on the field, and we've talked about how they could have jersey sponsorships potentially. We brought up the story about private capital. Was that last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, where these private capital firms or private equity firms who have $1 billion in equity, that they're going to start loaning potentially programs money so that they can fill in the gap, so they can close that financial gap that's going to be there for any school that's pursuing major college sports now with revenue sharing. So this is another way teams are going to organize their financial framework, because like I said, they don't know what the fair market value is for these players. Nobody knows. Remember an NIL survey that I was reading from On3, and it's a NIL survey they did of, they had players at a seminar, a summit in Nashville, 2025 recruits, blue chip recruits coming out of high school into college, being recruited by all the top programs in the country. And they surveyed this group. And essentially they asked them, what is of this group? And it was 40, I believe. How many recruits total? Yes, it was 41 blue chip recruits total. Not all of them answered every question. But they said the majority of desired financial packages ranged for these guys. So what they expected to be paid when they signed an NIL deal, $200,000 to $600,000. The median was $400,000. The lowest recorded NIL offer wanted was $33,000. So that young man, he's shortchanging himself.
Are we assuming that guy wears the number 33?
Maybe
it's got to be something like that, right?
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. 20. It says here that when they were asked about, whether NIL money was your top priority, and would that be the overwhelming factor in determining what school you go to, I would say 54% of the folks who answered that question, they said they would take less money to go to the ideal school, or to go to make it the perfect fit, to go to the school that's the right fit for them. But that still means that 46% of the those who were surveyed said, no, it's all about the dollar bill, y'all. It's about the dollar figure. Just pay me my money. And that the money would be the overwhelming factor in their decision. And I can't blame, because now think about it, guys, they just passed the rule. I don't know if they have approved it, but it's expected to be approved that there will be no transfer limits. And technically, I mean, they really haven't been enforcing transfer portal rules anyway, but there will be no transfer limits. So now what I went through and stressing to try to make the right decision for a 17-year-old, because I was so afraid of making the wrong decision, because if I made the wrong decision, I was stuck there.
Yeah.
So I had to put in a lot of research, and I had to do a lot of vetting to make sure, no, Texas is the right place for me. No matter what happens, it's the 40-year decision. Texas is the right place. It wasn't A&M, and it wasn't Penn State, and it wasn't Florida State, and it wasn't Colorado, which was all my five schools I narrowed my choices down to. But now you ain't got to stress about that. Pick the school that's going to give you the biggest bag, or pick the school that you think is right, whatever, and you make a bad decision or ends up being the wrong fit, transfer.
No,
another bag.
And it's too, it's like, you got to remember, some of these times these are family decisions, and where the kids say, man, I want to go to this school. They go, no, family needs money. Exactly. You're going to get money. I don't care about what you want. Family needs money. And like the story I remember, and this is back before NIL, but the story of LaMarcus Aldridge. That Marcus Aldridge committed to Texas, Rick Barnes in Texas, and they called Rick Barnes one night crying and telling him, sorry, I got to go to the NBA. I got to pull out and go to the NBA. I don't want to. My mom's dating this guy, and he wants the money. He wants me to go to the NBA. He thinks it's better for the family if I go to the NBA right now. And I think it'd be better if I went to Texas. I think it'd be better if I spent a year in college and got better. But I'm being told I'm not allowed to anymore. Like, I got to go to the NBA and make money for the family. And Rick Barnes had to then call his mom and talk his mom and be like, this guy doesn't understand what the hell he's doing to your kid. Like, you got to send him. And so, but that was a situation that happened before NIL, before that, but that was to go to the NBA or come to college. And that was the situation then. That it was the guy his mom was dating, not even his dad. And he was dealing with that. Sometimes those decisions aren't left up. And, they're told that you're going to get that money right now because we need it. And so it is a different landscape that, it's nice that most of us, or, some of us don't have to deal with that, but that is a reality for some of these kids as well, that, you're the ticket out for the whole family, not just for yourself. You're the ticket out.
We're not talking about, we ain't even talking about poverty. That's just like, no, money, of course, is the overwhelming factor in our decision. We need the money. My family needs the money.
I can buy a house for my mom.
It's generational.
Like how many athletes say one of the first things they buy is a house for the mom? Like, that's a very popular story. And now at NIL, it's happening earlier and earlier. But people being like, I paid off my mom's house, or I paid off this for, to relieve stress. That's the thing. And so you get why a lot of these kids will say, man, no, it's about the money. I get it. I'm using this to relieve problems in my family's life.
Yep. Generational wealth is what I'm starting with my family. And it starts with us owning our own property first, and owning a home, which we've never done. And now we're going to do it. No, I can't even get mad at these young people for making those decisions based on money, because now they get the mulligan. It's like, no, I'm screwed up. I know I'll transfer again and probably get another bag to transfer. It's a brave new world we're involved in. Okay, so that story about the fair market value is interesting. Also, I saw this story, and we'll get into our range report and Rod's rant. We're going to table that for a next segment and get into a next segment. But I also saw that they, the support staff, the super support staff in the arms race that Nick Saban started, where you would hire like ex-head coaches and former head coaches to be on your support staff. Those days may be done too, because with them now trying to close that financial gap, they're cutting expenses. That's why walk-ons may no longer be a thing.
Yeah.
They're literally like, nah, we can't afford walk-ons. Like, walk-ons, then they don't cost you anything. Well, actually, they do cost us in terms of meals, and they cost us when we go to bowl games. It costs us stuff, and they cost us the extra pads we got to put on them and all this. Like, it. Trust me. It's like I was like, oh no, they go to training staff, and they're in the weight room, and in time, and these guys are becoming straight up like bureaucrats, and they're cutting all the budget. All they want to see is really a spreadsheet with the black and the red. And that's really what they're looking at now.
Yep.
They're done thinking about the college experience and amateurism, that kind of stuff. So walk-ons are probably going to go. And also, though, these huge support staffs where you can hire a former head coach, a college head coach like a Gary Patterson or a Paul Chris as a special assistant. I don't know if you're going to have those anymore because they're not going to really be able to afford it unless those guys are going to take 45 to 50,000 a year jobs instead of being able to pay them, I don't know, 200,000 or whatever it is. Like that, we're talking about them becoming as bare bones kind of budgets for some of these programs, because right now the administrators don't think they're going to be able to afford very luxurious expenses. Or at least they look at it like that anyway. All right, let's get to the break. We'll come back. Rangers Report and Rod's Round the Day. We'll do them both. Rod's Round the Day will be all NFL stuff. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to the Rangers report. Then we'll get to the Rod's rant of the day, NFL related rant of the day. Most of the discussion among Rangers fans, because the Rangers were off yesterday, but they start up a series with the Giants actually today.
Yep.
A lot of the talk, of course, is about Corey Seager and his status, and there won't be clarity on it or more information on it, I think, until maybe later on today. I think the whole point is they said it's not serious. For Rangers fans, he felt his left hamstring on Wednesday while he was running to first base following an RBI single. That was like in the second inning. Seager was lifted from the game, and then everybody freaked out. Remember, Corey Seager, though, did later say that he's fine. Bruce Bochy said it's not a serious injury, but we know soft tissue injuries could linger. So he's definitely going to miss some time. Is he going to be on the injured list? I don't think so, the way it looks, but the Rangers, that off time, maybe it helped, but you don't want to take any chances with a long season. Seager is leading the Rangers in batting average and OPS, and is tied for the team lead in homers. So he has done a lot of his damage in May. He had 11 home runs in May. So he's been playing lights out. So that would be a very unfortunate injury for the Rangers, who have been dealing with a lot of injuries anyway. I saw this as well, since we're talking about the Rangers. It was a Major League Baseball list of the most deserving all-stars on each team. Says the most deserving all-star on the Rangers, Marcus Semien. Started for the AL at second base last season, picked up right where he left off, hitting 264 with a 767 OPS, and leading the Rangers in several categories following an 8-game skid in which he just went 433 with 2 doubles, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts. Following that collision with Adolis Garcia in right field, and Semien has righted the ship since then with hits in all 6 games, 9 of 21 since he was granted his first day off in 2 years. So having a really good season, or at least a turnaround for Marcus Semien. So there you go. That's Rangers, who will be starting up their series tonight versus the Giants, and you'll hear that.
You will not hear this on the horn.
Oh, you won't hear that on the horn.
You will not hear that on the horn.
You will not hear that on the horn.
But you can go watch the game. It'll be fun. Yeah, the Corey Seager one is the big story, but it's all reports are they're not doing any imaging. They're not sitting in for an MRI or any of that stuff. They're basically going to wait it out. So he may even play in this series. He's not expected to play tonight, but they may play in the series. But they're basically every day going to go out and just see how he's feeling. And if he feels anything, keep staying down. But they hope that it is, a 4 to 5 day injury, not a 4 to 5 week injury.
Yeah. Trying to keep him off the injured list.
Yes.
If they can, if possible. But you definitely don't want to take a chance with a hamstring. So there you go. That's the Rangers report, brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer. All right. I wanted to get to this sound earlier, but kind of ran out of time, so I'm going to cram it into Rod's rant. This is Adam Schefter. He was on NFL Live on ESPN, and he was asked about Dak Prescott's contract status and the potential negotiations going on between he and the Dallas Cowboys. And the way Adam Schefter describes it is, Dak has all the leverage in this negotiation. Here's Adam Schefter.
Hey, Damien, let's be very clear about hometown discounts as they pertain to Dak Prescott. There's not a player in football with more leverage right now than Dak Prescott. He's headed into the last year of his contract. Right. He can't be traded. He can't be tagged. He would be out of his mind to give any type of discount when he is in the position to reset the quarterback market after the season if Dallas doesn't have a deal done with him. There's no player in football with more leverage than Dak Prescott, and I would expect him to use it like a hammer, despite the fact that he'd like to stay with the hometown Cowboys.
All right. So the way Shefty describes it is, he's got a lot of leverage, and to keep him from being able to maximize that leverage and reset the quarterback market as a free agent, the Cowboys are going to have to sign Dak. And there's more optimism, right? We heard a report a couple of weeks ago that the Cowboys don't want Dak to hit free agency, and they do intend to sign him. They just haven't really made many efforts to do so. We haven't at least heard many reports about them doing so. But it's for the Cowboys, that dollar figure for Dak. I don't know if he wants to be the highest paid quarterback, but he certainly, that is a testament, at least that report there. It shows that he has the leverage to do so. If he wants to be the highest paid quarterback, he may have the leverage to put the Cowboys in a situation where they have no choice. Either that, or they're going to let him hit the free agency, which is the doomsday scenario, I believe, for the Cowboys. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah,
because we don't trust the Cowboys at that point. And what are they going to do? What's their future plan at quarterback? We just don't know. No, I don't know if they know. Maybe it's Trey Lance. Heard good things, but that is a hell of a transition to go from a guy who was an all-pro quarterback to go to Trey Lance, who was once considered a bust, and you're going to somehow revive his career. That would be interesting.
And also, Trey Lance isn't signed. So, I mean, you could sign him a lot easier than anybody else.
Oh, well, yeah. But you're right. Technically,
he is not under contract either after this year. So,
yeah. And, Cowboys got a lot of guys like that after this year. They're technically not. They got to do something about Zach Martin after this season because he'd be a free agent. Technically, of course, CeeDee Lamb, but we believe they're going to re-sign CD here in the next couple of months here or something like that. Brandon Cooks. DeMarcus Lawrence also is a free agent after 2024. A lot of guys. And, of course, Dak Prescott, if they don't sign him, is a free agent after 2024. So there you go. Cowboys news, Dak's got a lot of leverage. So everybody understands that. Seems except for the Dallas Cowboys. Because the sooner you sign them, the less, you get that out of the way. It's not a big deal. Definitely probably should have. Dak, I understand why they didn't get Dak out of the way because you want to see how Dak would perform. Mike McCarthy has a play caller and all that. He was great, by the way, all pro. But the guys like CD should have been done. That's one of those times where you probably could have done that one earlier. The Micah one, I also understand. Micah's going to be the highest paid defensive player in the league, maybe in history, and that wasn't going to change. That was going to be the case since his second year in the league. So those are two really that I understand why they didn't get those deals done earlier. The CeeDee Lamb one, there's really not an excuse for it. That you should have got that deal done earlier.
No, but we've seen they've
miscalculated the market.
They've missed. I feel like Jerry just feels like the bubble's going to burst in that market at some point, and he's like, "Just please burst." You're like, it ain't bursting before you got to pay him.
No, but exactly. Not before you got to pay him, man.
Before you got to pay him. It is
what it is now. Yeah, I don't know when you thought it was going to burst, but now because. Yeah, it's going to be another $30 million a year receiver when Jamar Chase signs. So, and CeeDee Lamb is going to get his too. So I agree, but I agree with that thought process. I didn't think it would balloon to this point either. We talked about that yesterday, but we've never seen anything like this at any other position other than quarterback. This type of inflation of value at one position. All right. Since we talked some Cowboys, remember I try to balance the scales, try to go Cowboys, try to go some Texans. Louis Riddick, he does a great job on ESPN's NFL Live, and he was talking about the Texans. And he talks about the Texans in a way that gives any Texans fan, he basically makes you overconfident. The way he talks about the Texans, right? The way
he talks about it so much, it makes me worry.
Exactly. He stressed me out talking about. I'm like, hold on, man, you too high on the Texans. What's going on here? So, and Louis Riddicks awesome. He's a former scout in the league.
Someone's ODing on the Kool-Aid,
right? I'm like,
too much Kool-Aid.
Like, slow down there, Louis Riddick. Well, listen to the way Louis Riddick talks about the Texans, the passion that you hear in his breakdown here.
CJ Stroud is that dude. End of story. He's that guy, and he was going to ascend, and he's going to ascend like a rocket ship. And it's going to be fun to watch. Number two, look, I'll tell you what. There isn't a coach in the NFL who I would say I have more confidence in his ability to snuff out and be able to kind of put a lid on any kind of smoldering fire more so than that guy right there. More so than that guy. Because you know what? He is like the perfect crossover from – he still looks like a Mike Backer. Have you seen his arms? Have you seen the way this dude looks right now? He could probably step in and give you 10 to 15 first and second down reps. And on top of it, he's so grounded. He's so intelligent. He has such a command. I ain't worried about nothing in Houston. Nothing. The McNair family hit this ball so far out of the park with hiring DeMeco Ryans, and the way they have added to this football team this year, I'm not worried about anything. Stephon Diggs is the least of my concerns. I just want this team to stay healthy and let them go on and continue to improve. DeMeco Ryans will handle it, whatever comes.
Wow. I mean, CJ Stroud is going to ascend.
He's going to ascend.
Right? Like, whoa, man. I mean, so he is. I love DeMeco and CJ Stroud, that combination. I mean, first rookie head coach quarterback duo to win a playoff game and win a division in 100 years in the NFL. Man, hadn't been done in a long, long time. And so I know they're great, but man, the way he talks about DeMeco is this guy's basically on his way to being a Super Bowl winning coach potentially.
Well, I mean, he's about to be the GOAT. Well,
he has no concerns, no worries in H-Town, none at all. I will say that CJ Stroud he's impressive. The more and more, and this thing about it, CJ Stroud, and you've noticed this because we've talked about this. He's not talking trash a lot, but he's definitely up in the ante this offseason.
Oh yeah, no,
he's not necessarily talking trash, but he's up in the ante. He's showing people that he's got a swag to him that people thought, oh no, this guy's kind of humble, and he's like, no.
Well, I mean,
he got a swagger to him.
This time. Yeah. Well, I guess we'd already drafted him at this time last year, but 2 months ago last year, so 14 months ago, he was being talked about as should he be a first round quarterback? Is he that overrated? Whatever the Wonderlic score and all that other stuff his scoring was so bad, and he may be the worst quarterback to ever come out of any school. And Ohio State quarterbacks do not work. And that was a conversation 14 months ago before the draft.
It's like the cognition test.
Whatever the cognitive test was. But yeah, he scored so badly on it that you'll be insane to pick him, and the Texans will be crazy to pick him early. And you better hope that Bryce Young is there. You better hope, because that's your only chance of getting a quarterback. That was a conversation that we were, and it was hyperbole so much the other way. And it flips so much now that the conversation is now that it's upping the ante so much that you are, as much as it's great to see as a Texans fan, you want to see this. At the same part, you just have to look back and go, man, that target on your chest is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more everybody hypes you up, the more everyone else is going to try and make their name on your back.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, man, that S2 cognition test is what it was.
Yeah.
He basically killed that company, right? Because they were trying to replace the Wonderlic. That was their whole purpose. They wanted to be the S2 cognition test to replace the Wonderlic, and then those scores are supposed to be able to translate to success on the field and to achievement on the field. And he killed it because apparently he had one of the worst S2 cognition scores, and yet had the best season of any rookie quarterback that we've seen in the last 20 years, potentially ever, of all time. So nobody talk. I guarantee you, next offseason, this offseason, we didn't hear anything about the S2 cognition test.
Not at all.
We didn't hear a damn thing about it. Why? He literally destroyed their business. He put them out of business because their business was going to be, hey, we're going to replace the Wonderlic, because remember they got rid of the Wonderlic.
Yeah,
because of kind of the blowback from it. And they it's supposed to be a more politically correct way to test guys, the ST cognition test. And man, the worst thing they ever did was let those scores leak. Because if CJ Stroud scored that low on the S2 cognition test and then achieved that level as a rookie quarterback, then it clearly is not an accurate data point.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure if the Wonderlic is either, but at least the Wonderlic, the first year it came out, didn't already have something to immediately, to immediately prove it false.
Yeah. No, that was, I think it was more the death knell on all those tests for now of doing these written tests or whatever else is never going to tell you exactly what this quarterback is going to be able to process on the field. It's just a different kind of thinking and a different kind of mentality. But yeah, it's seeing that now with CJ Stroud. And you're right. He doesn't come out and say we're winning the Super Bowl and I'm winning MVP. And he doesn't have that, but he does have the bring it attitude for everybody. And I'll go against anybody. He has that attitude all offseason. It's like, no, don't put us below anybody else and don't talk about us and don't. So it's a different, it's not the full on Super Bowl guarantee confidence, but it's a little bit that part of me, the superstitious part of me, like, guys, we're trying to have fun here. We're Texas fans. It was so bad for so long, and we had so much fun last year, and now it's just getting dangerous.
Yeah, well, last year was fun because expectations were low.
So low.
And and I've been warning Longhorn fans about this too. I said,
That's
think about the expectations were.
No.
Now the expectations are sky high.
No, the expectations.
So the ride isn't as fun because when the expectations are really high, there's a lot more at stake. There's a lot more to lose. Disappointment is right around the corner. When the expectations are low, like the Texans were, and I'm not saying that Longhorns' expectations were low, but they were lower. Nobody was thinking, oh, we're going to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They were thinking, oh, win the Big 12. And now expectations are high. So it's hard to enjoy the wins as much because you keep thinking about, man, they almost lost that one. As opposed to now the wins for the Texans are like, oh, man, they won. Or, oh, it's another good win. Everything is found money when your expectations are low. When they're high, man, you're more critical.
Their expectations were Pitbull and they got Beyonce. And that was, that's what the expectations are now. Exactly Beyonce. Right. They're not Pitbull anymore.
Yes, there you go. Boom. In a nutshell. That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself. And you're right. Longhorn fans, Beyonce expectations, as you pointed out, for this season. And Texans are the same way. And you're right. CJ Stroud, he talked a little trash to the Colts guy, I guess, about the Colts a little bit. But he doesn't give a lot of bulletin board material. But you're right. He doesn't back down. And he exudes a swagger. He exudes almost a borderline arrogance.
Yes.
And which I want from my quarterback. I like from my quarterback.
And then
like I said, it's up in the end.
And he's really trying to create that Cowboys rivalry too.
Yeah, he is. Him and Micah.
And Micah, because they dropped the new one. I believe it was the weak ass Cowboys. He said he was not part of them.
Man,
he said, I do not play for them, I believe is what the state was.
See? Hey, that's what I'm saying. They'll tell you he does not back down. It's like, whoa. So I appreciate that about him, man. I really do. I like me some CJ Stroud, but not as much as Louis Riddick. I don't like him as much as Louis Riddick.
That sounds like a televangelist talking about Jesus when he was talking about the Texans.
He really, honestly, he really did.
If you just put a few amens behind him, that would have been. That would have been what it sounded like. It was like when they started that music, I was like, hey, the music is dimming this a little bit. If you just had him just talking, like at the beginning, he was coming at it hard. He's going to
put it like a hype video with Texans highlights and with the right music. I'm with you because I'm like, whoa. All right, but that gives you confidence. So I remember I'm trying to balance the scales. A little Cowboys hype, little Texans hype. I don't know if there's as much Cowboys hype as there's Texans hype, but Cowboys are probably going to win 12 games. But for some reason, this offseason, Cowboys fans they're not happy. They're upset with their Cowboys, and I get it. All right, but Texas fans are the exact opposite. They finally won the offseason. I don't think we've had an offseason.
If you're a Cowboys fan and you hate Dak Prescott, he's still your quarterback. And if you're a Cowboys fan, you like Dak Prescott, he may not be your quarterback much longer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of depressing either way.
It's depressing either way. And the Texans are like, we've never had an offseason this good. We've never, ever had an offseason that's been this good ever as a Texans fan. We don't know what's going on. We don't even know how to handle it. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven. We'll play a little game called Who Said That on the other side. That's when Patrick plays bits of audio based on the context clues, based on recalling the voice. Maybe you have maybe it's familiar to you. You're supposed to be able to identify the audio and identify who said that. We'll do that on the other side. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Mike Tom Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's for my co-host and the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis. That's when he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to watch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Paul Lidell's Scream Therapy. They are playing Saturday at Anderson Mill Pub.
I like that. It's a nice name. Always interested in the genesis of these really creative band names. All right. Thank you, Patrick, for 512 Friday. Time for us to get to Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and then based on the familiarity of the voice or maybe the context clues within the audio, you're supposed to be able to identify who said that.
We need to finish the season better. So you get what you emphasize. Well, why not find ways to emphasize finishing in everything you do? Obsess about it. Why not have, for half the off season, you're trying to have staff meetings at different times during the day. And I had every staff meeting I put like at 7:24 or 3:24. Or 524, like the number 24. Okay. To you guys, it means nothing. That's how many years it's been since the organization's won a playoff game. We are going to hear about that come playoff time. You think? So to me, you do that to empower guys to know what's coming, to understand it, to not run from it. Because if you're going to achieve success where people are predicting failure, you're going to have to go above and beyond.
Love that. That's Mike McDaniel, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. You get what you emphasizing, hey, man, we got to win a playoff game.
Yeah.
It's been 24 damn years since we won a playoff game. Sark did that too. Sark remember, Texas couldn't close. That was their big issue, was Texas could not close out games his first 2 years. And then Sark changed the practices, structured the practices to build to a crescendo. So the toughest part of practice, the most intense part of practice was at the end, fourth quarter. Said we got to play more guys so that we're fresher in the fourth quarter. So they started rotating more players so they're fresher in the fourth quarter. He even talked about his play calling had to change. So Sark, he understood that too. I mean, get what you emphasize as a coach, and they emphasize we got to close, and they're emphasizing we got to win a playoff game. It's going to be tough in the AFC, though. AFC is loaded.
It is.
Loaded.
It is.
It is, man.
And but you know what? Hey, that's what you get when you pay wide receivers $50 million plus in your wide receiver core. You better win some games.
You better win some playoff games. There you go. It's a good point. They got 2 of them. All right. Thank you, Patrick, for everything you do, brother. Great job this week, as always. And thank all you guys out there for participating in the show all this week. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next week, same time, same channel. Peace and hook 'em.